Buenas and Hafa Day, Mananasitos. Many of God's blessings to all of us here this morning. This joint oversight hearing by the Committee on Human Resources, Hagåtña Revitalization, Regional Affairs, Public Libraries, Telecommunications, Technology, and Federal and Foreign Affairs, and the Committee on Emergency Response, Military and Veterans Affairs, Border Safety, and Mayor's Council is called to order. The time is 9:02 a.m. And for the record, and in accordance with 5 GCA, Chapter 8, subsection 8107, public hearing notices were sent out on Monday, April 1st, 2024, adhering to the 5-day notice requirement, and a second public notice on April 6th, 2024, 48 hours prior. In addition, this hearing was noticed on the legislature's website, www.guamlegislature.com, the Government of Guam's public notice website, and through a TV advertisement on PBS Guam. Ladies and gentlemen, written testimonies may be submitted by emailing Senator Muña Barnes at guamlegislature.org, or you may hand deliver to our office at Suite 411, 134 West Soledad Avenue, Hagåtña, Guam. On the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, we have a joint oversight hearing on the Guam Veterans Affairs Office. Joining me here this morning, I'd like to thank my colleagues for being here. We have the Speaker, Speaker Therese, thank you. The Legislative Secretary, Senator Amanda Shelter, and I'll start from my right. Senator Chris Dueñas, Senator Jesse Lahan, of course, the Oversight Chair on Veterans Affairs, Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas hosting this hearing with us, and then we have Senator Chris Barnett. Thank you so very much for being with us. Before we proceed with the discussion, I would like to provide some general rules of conduct for all who are in attendance. And the conduct of this hearing shall be as follows. Those testifying will be recognized in the order of sign up on the sign-in sheet, which is to my left, your right, back there. Written testimony may be read and submitted to the committee. Please provide our legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Persons will be allowed to present oral testimony only once. Lengthy testimony should be summarized to 5 minutes. Once you are done, please remain in the room for any questions by my colleagues. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or the nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of these general rule of conduct will result in removal from the hearing room. And ladies and gentlemen, when you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. You will please state your name for the record and where you are from. Those who do not follow these rules of engagements will be removed from this public hearing room. And with that being said, I will now move into opening statements. Buenas and Hafa Day. I want to share with all of you here today in the listening audience that over the last few months, a group of veteran organizations have been meeting with the office of Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas, Delegate Jim Moylan, and mine. And in these meetings, it has been made apparent that there is, in fact, a sense of dissatisfaction from many of our veterans as it relates to the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. One thing I quickly picked up from these meetings is that there is a can-do attitude as it relates to getting to the bottom of problems and a sense of coming together when it comes to solving problems. It is with that spirit that we call this oversight hearing today. Just recently, the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration declared that 2024 as the year of the veteran, an initiative that came forth from the advocacy of our monthly Veterans Task Force meeting. And without a doubt, there is no senator in this legislature who will not support initiatives that support and benefit our veterans. What I'm trying to say is that the political will is there, ladies and gentlemen, and it is the right thing to do, to take care of those who took care of us, and it's the spirit of Inapamalik, something that is embedded in everyone who calls Guam home. While that may be the case, there seems to be a disconnect between expectations and reality. So for me, today is the beginning of a great partnership, a partnership between the Guam legislature, the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, and most importantly, the many veterans who are here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a veteran, but I know firsthand what my late husband, United States Air Force Master Sergeant Jacob Jake Cruz Barnes, went through, waiting for care until his very last breath. I know firsthand what my family went through, skipping work, uprooting our families, just so we can have access to health care. And while the almost 2-year journey for me was not easy, what kept us going was the many in our community who share some tribulations, who shared the same tribulations as our family did. It was their stories of hope, their support, and their encouragement, knowing that we are not alone. And I want to say thanks to the support of Delegate Jim Moylan and Mr. Vince Bora. He's out in the audience this morning. Good morning, Mr. Bora, for being here. Both he and I were tapped to serve on an advisory committee for the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. And let the record reflect that I'm speaking here today in my capacity as the Vice Speaker, not in my capacity as a federal appointee. But I have spoken to the top VA leadership. It is clear to me that we need to do more. And there are many shortcomings as it relates to veterans issues on Guam. And as I make my case to the VA leadership, it became clear that we as a local government cannot even do the basics. Something that is mandated in law. In our briefings, we heard that Guam had 5,728 veterans enrolled at VHA, which is the Veterans Health Administration, 12,800 in the Veterans Benefits Administration, which is the VBA. And when I reached out to the Guam office, there was 28,000 pending adequate software that is needed to properly verify. And when this presentation came to mind, Mr. Borja, Vince Borja, and I, as a part of the advisory committee, was at a presentation in Puerto Rico. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that I took the time to read the enabling legislation of the Guam's Office of Veterans Affairs, and I want to share with you that it reads pretty clearly that this office is supposed to maintain a registry and report to the Speaker of the Legislature in Guam on a quarterly basis as it relates to the Veteran Registry. Ladies and gentlemen, I did FOIA the Speaker's office for such records, but as I understand, there was no submission that has happened. So Guam law states that each agency must submit a citizen-centric report, and that was the last one I could find from the Guam Veterans Affairs Office was in fiscal year 2020. I did take the time to read that report, and it seems like the issues identified then and the solutions proposed have yet to be addressed. Mind you, these are your own agency's way forward and is listed in your report. So whatever it is, and while I've stated I've heard frustrations and complaints, our office did our office did receive testimony in support of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. So I want to say, let's put the good, the bad, and the ugly on the table, and let's get to work. Going back to the start of a good partnership, I am inclined to convene a follow-up hearing in the coming weeks and would like to be an ongoing partner where we create action items and a roadmap to solving legacy issues. I know that the agency cannot do anything if the legislature does not support and fund it. So I am here to also commit that as we identify issues along with the Oversight Chairman, which is Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas, we are here to advocate for you, partner with you, and solve our issues. So, undunklu na si Jules Masi, and at this time, I'm going to go ahead and yield over to Senator St. Nicholas for his opening remarks first. So, put for butt, Senator St. Nicholas, consigue mo na.
Buenas and Hafade, thank you all for being here. Early in the term when we were deciding who was going to take over the Veterans Affairs Committee, I was kind of hesitant, but here I am, and I'm very honored to also help and represent the veterans. I too am a veteran. I've been through, I was in the infantry with the National Guard, 11 Bravo. I deployed under Operation Enduring Freedom. When I came back from deployment, I had no idea that we had all these benefits. I came back and, as time goes by, when you've been released from active duty, the times are ticking. So I had no idea. So when they told me that I had benefits and I had medical conditions, I started off my application, and I started in 2012. And it took many years because back in that time, there were so many disability applications from the current war. And it took a long time. But I was awarded 30% at the beginning, at the onset. I didn't, so I didn't really know, I didn't really understand the process. But I got to learn the process, and it nearly took almost 10 years before they awarded me what was due. So it took a long time, and it took a long time for us to be here, and all this stuff we have to work on. It takes a long time, and I also understand that moving legislation requires a lot of time and a lot of work. My committee has pushed a couple of legislation through that actually became law, which is very, very good, and I'm very honored that happened, and I thank the governor and the veterans organizations. I did not know, too, that there were so many veterans organizations out there, everyone with different missions, but it's all the same, meaning they want to help our veterans get their benefits, work them through their medical issues and all that stuff. I spoke to a veteran yesterday, and he mentioned that, I don't really talk about my issues, but because I was a veteran, he was able to come and talk to me, and we were able to understand each other. I think that's what veterans, as veterans, that's the thing that happens to us. We understand each other, and I just want to mention that we're trying our best with what limited resources we can, allocate from the government to put into action. And I do understand that every veteran has different issues, especially when it comes to medical care or where they're at in the benefits process. So I understand that. My office is always open to all of you. You can come by. I actually became an expert in disability law. Don't quote me on that because I don't have any certificates or any certification. It's just during the process. It took me almost 10 years, but I had to learn veterans law, and I've become an advocate for that. So whenever veterans come to the office, and I understand where they are at in their issues, I can help them out and direct them to the proper agency or the proper person that would give them help. And first of all, also, I'd like to thank all the veterans organizations out there who are really taking care of each and every one of us, and also for the the VA, you know, like again, I said, limited resources, and there's only so much you can stretch the dollar, and they're doing their best. So with that, I'd like to welcome you here, and I'm here to hear all your concerns, and I'm very thankful that you're all here, and so let's begin. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator and Chairman Dwayne Nicholas. At this time, I invite the directors here, as well as any of the staff from Guam Veterans Affairs Office, to have a seat at the table. And you're all here? All the members of the VA's office is here, right? If you wanted anyone else to sit on the table, you're more than welcome, Mr. Director. Before the director starts, I will note for the record that we did receive written testimony from Congressman Moylan, from Mr. Monty McDowell, who's also here. Good morning. Thank you. To Mrs. Shannon Tainatungo, Ms. Ellen Charloff, Ms. Johnny LaVille, and Stephen Day. So at this time, I will yield to the panel, and Mr. San Agustin, you may start. Please state your name for the record. And I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for the record, based on our standing rules and what is presented. I'd ask the Sergeant of Arms to please do the swearing in of the director and the staff today. Please stand.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Madam Chair, under oath, you may proceed. Thank you.
Sidus Masi, Sergeant of Arms, thank you very much, Mr. San Agustin and team. You may proceed, Mr. San Agustin. Manana Sidus, thank you for being here.
Buenas and good morning, Madam Vice Speaker, Speaker Therese Terlahi, Senator Dwayne Nicholas, Senator Chris Malafunction, Senator Lohan, Senator Amanda Shelton, Senator Duenas, and Senator Kanata. Thank you for having this hearing here this morning. I want to first respond. My name is Joe, I apologize. My name is Joe San Agustin, the Director of the Guam Veterans Affairs. To my left, I have my Administrative Officer, Mr. Joseph Mano. To my right, I have my Veterans Service Representative, Ms. Tanya Eubank. I want to first respond to the question that the Vice Speaker had asked about a few seconds ago. Are all the folks from the VA office here in support of this hearing? And I want to respond, no. You got 4 of us here, 3 that are here to answer any questions to the legislature or the public. Otherwise, the remainder of the employees are back in the office doing what they do every day, and that's taking care of the veterans' family business. I'm here this morning with my team to go ahead and address the issues that was brought up on the agenda. So with that, based on the sequence of the agenda, I will yield the first topic to my Administrative Officer, Mr. Joseph Mano. Can we bring the agenda up on the screen, please? Thank you.
Did you need a copy of the agenda, Mr. San Agustin?
No, I think for the benefit of the public here, it'd be good for them, and it'd be good for us too to have it up on the screen, and then we'll address it accordingly.
The agenda. Mr. San Agustin, for the record, we don't have a slide prepared for the agenda, but I am very much aware that everybody that's in the room has a copy of it. I'd be more than welcome to give you a copy of this agenda.
Madam Chair, do you plan to go ahead and start the questions, or do you want us to go ahead and start answering based on the agenda?
Sir, I yield this time for your office and your team to do a presentation based on what's slotted before us, and then we can take it, because we do have veterans who wish to speak after you.
Okay, Mr. Manu.
So what I'll do is I'll have you do your presentation based on that, and then I will open it up to my colleagues for questions, and then with the veterans,
Okay.
because this is why we're here.
Okay.
Sidus Masi.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Manana Sidus, senators, and Sidus Masi, Podestina Tansani, man, Matut Gwini, Pudi yung alok earlier na para ta identifika I problema siya ni infafana gi ofisinan mami. Gi mastat kilo na respeto man gaigit za nizon mami staff kada dia man matu za insetsegwi todo ini na sinyan mami ni para tana possibly esti itsetso mami para I beturano. Ingestungo na importante itsetso tagwi papa sa man meganya gi iban beturano siya bula problema no za con todo I director hana atotsugi todo I nina sinanya loki gi ofisinan mami ni tana possibly itsetsota tana siguro na hafa bidadata gwi papa na intsetsigi sa put I intrisao I beturano siya. Pos gifinene na I operasyon za ni administrasyon na banda bula sa sagan mami gi papa kada sakan man malofan gi in presenta I budget mami ing man maftuam papa gwini ba bengagagad siamzo I adzudun mizo no na possibly ni para I kapasidad gi papa asan tatungo na megay problema gi papa iput uno ti manahungit gi ihut nalero siya na banda I mina dos isalapi ni babay inisisita ni para tana possibly ito di programa con todo operasyon na banda gi oficina. Pues para guaho an alok na man gaigid gwini ni para tafan tatsogi todo I nina sinata ni para ta possibly todo I para I oficina. Pues maila za Funo I Vice Speaker za tana afa maulikit za tatsogi todo I tsetsu ni padiputsi sa an makpuya ani todo I tsetsotota ni bidadata ti parahita na para I veterano siya. Pues ombis guahong I difunto tatahu biu veterano Air Force. Za kada malofan I haani u anu ipos I naftanya gi pampa gi sepetura usangangin le kupap kada dia malolofan mas mamolik hit mo na an para ta fan agot ti zata tsogi todi tsetsu ni padiput sigwi papa na oficina. Senators, it is no it is we have to identify the issues that we face down at the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, and like the Vice Speaker said, we will work alongside with the legislature to make sure that we have all the resources that we need. And we have a lot of issues down at our office that need to be addressed. So we're here and we're willing to work with the senators. We have been in close contact with our oversight, Senator Dwayne Nicholas and his staff, and we appreciate that. But we do realize that there's much more work that has to go into it to provide us with the resources and the finance to move our office forward to where we should be at this point.
Thank you, Joe.
Masi.
Senators, at this time, I'll go ahead and yield the time to Ms. Tanya Eubanks, who will talk about the Veteran Service Officers.
Buenas Tanafide, Speaker, Vice Speaker, Senators before us, and all the veterans that rally up behind me. My name is Tanya Eubanks, and I'm one of the accredited Veterans Service representatives from the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, one of 5 accredited representatives on Guam. 5 representatives that have the legal authority to assist veterans in filing for their claims, veterans and their families. You know, and I just want to, before I read my section here, I just wanted to say to all the veterans in this room, thank you for your service. So when I grew up, my parents just taught me that when you see a veteran, you say thank you for your service. But it wasn't until I got this job that I understood exactly why I'm saying thank you. So when I say thank you today, it means something completely different. So thank you for your service. So the Department of Veteran Affairs accredits 3 types of representatives. That is a Veteran Service Organization representative, which is the 4 of us that come from the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, and then 1 from the VFW, which is Mr. Alan Turner. They accredit attorneys and agents. We do have several attorneys on Guam. I believe there's 3 or 4 of them that are accredited from the Department of Veterans Affairs, but we do not have any agents. So technically there are 5 that from a veteran service organization and 4 that are attorneys. But veteran service organizations are not allowed to charge veterans or their families for any services rendered from our office. And we do so in establishing representation, which is called a power of attorney for VA purposes. And when the veteran and the VSO signs that, they're in agreement that we are going to be representing them and that there is absolutely no charge of any type of fees. So when the VA accredits these types of representations, right, it's to help ensure that the claimants have access to responsible and qualified representation on their VA benefit claims. The VA accredited representatives must have good moral character, and they have to be capable of providing competent representation. And the VA Office of General Counsel is actually responsible for making those determinations through its accreditation process. So unaccredited individuals who prepare, present, and prosecute any VA benefit claims or hold themselves out as being unauthorized to do so are actually in violation of federal law. And that's 38 CFR 14.629. So I just want to say that the VSOs that are at our office, we work tirelessly, even to the point where we had to have some kind of time management because our supervisors and our directors wanted to prevent us from being burnt out. Because again, there's only 5 of us, you know, and like what was mentioned before about the legislature providing us the budget so that we can hire more people, we really are in dire need for that. And it really is a disservice to our veterans that there's only 5 of us on Guam. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Senators, at this time, I'll go ahead and take it back to Mr. Joe Meno, who will talk about budget finance and then outreach. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Director. I-budget mami gi sigun 1.2 milyon. Za gimapus na maanayong presenta i-budget mami, zan estiloqui na sakan, man mote zan presenta i hafa di putsi ni sisidat mami para i-officinan mami. Za an unatan i 1.2 milyon inanahungya para i-apa si hutnelero zan i hanom zan i power i utilities. Edwa i hafa siya na object class para i operasyon na banda mansatsagam. Za kada sakan malofan in presenta i-budget in sangani oficina ni si Senator Sanagasin zan itaw-taw niya. Za sige na diputsi inisisidad mami para i-kapasidad. I-manahalom mapresenta i-budget po mananahungi para fanakuni talo lokwi VSR na banda to hire more veteran service representatives for our office. Pues senators, tadza mas put edzu lo inga gagaziamzu edzu dun mizu na una posible un support testi I ginagaw mamami para I babay na nahungi para most especially for the operation side of the house. We are needing your help on that part. Bago para outreach efforts, mandanyam zanidzon mami stakeholders such as CBOC and the Tizen office to provide support for the outreach. They have always included Guam Office of Veteran Affairs for the outreach efforts. We have joined them most recently and most especially for the PACT Act outreach. Again, our office is in need of resources, both financially and the manpower side of the house, to provide a more efficient outreach effort. And we recognize and we understand that with whatever resources we have, we are doing our very best to try to fulfill that part of our mission at our office. But we realize that we need your help, gi legislatura na banda, then con todo I front office, right? I oficina ni magahaga. Pues, edza pago, za sizus masi.
Mr. Joe, if I know this is not the questions part, but since you just spoke that, for the upcoming fiscal year, I checked with OFB website and couldn't find your agency budget request. Has this been submitted not yet?
No.
So
Oh, I'm
when-
sorry, for this coming fiscal year?
Yeah.
Yes. It's going to remain the same, 1.2.
So you've submitted it
Yes,
to
to BBMR.
BBMR?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, maybe we can make sure that we get a copy of that. We have not received it. Okay.
Okay, thank you,
See,
ma'am.
Director San Agustin.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Joe Meno. Madam Speaker, Vice Speaker, Senators, the remainder of the agenda will be on my ballpark. But I want to say this. When I joined the military in 1979, retired in 2009, I never gave up supporting our veterans, our active duty military, and our family here at home. It's always been in my heart as a die-hard race Chamorro here on Guam that I continue to support at whatever cost it takes to do justice to help our island, which is always in a dire need. In April 2023, March 2023, there was a Welcome Home Vietnam veteran ceremony that was held up at the Coban in Manila. The military order, the Purple Heart president, requested from the speaker funding so that we could have a veterans convention here on Guam. That was March 2023. I decided to schedule that convention November 2023. That will give us time then for the appropriation. Then we submit for our quotation and make it happen. In doing that, I was always cautioned that it doesn't become a nonprofit hand-me-down, that I take it for whatever it takes so that we be responsible for the taxpayers' money. November 2023, that did not happen. We requested again for consideration by that nonprofit organization, Mr. Nick Francisco, which again, I was right behind it, that we want to make this happen, but it cannot be a hand-me-down, that it has to be a mechanism in place, which is me, to make sure that it is utilized in a responsible way because it is the taxpayers' money. I did plan it then, let's make it April. Well, the thing is the appropriation of $50,000 was given to us in February, which now there is funding. Now let's do the quotation, continue forward with our plan and make this happen. In saying that, again, because it is taxpayers' money, it's going to take us time to get all the quotations, all the planning together tight and make it happen. In saying that, we're not able to meet the April 6th, as you all know, it passed. Right now, the planning is within the GSA to help us obtain quotations and approval so that we could have a venue and a time and place exact where the convention is going to be held. Right now, the earliest is 28 June, the earliest. Because again, you know, we got graduations and different type of events where many of these hotels are being tied up with their scheduling and allowing us for at least a Saturday, one day, for a convention. Okay? So I will not provide an exact date of when that convention is until we get the procurement in place, and then I will make that announcement so I do not put bogus information out there. So that's where that convention is, and I definitely would want to have it. The people, the veterans are excited. They want to have the convention. I have to do it right, though, and I hope that you all understand that. The other thing is the state of the Veterans Cemetery. Let's go with, let me address the grant. The mysterious $8.2 million grant. We didn't lose it. We never had it. The language back in October 2022, my predecessor, who did the right thing in pursuing and pushing the National Cemetery Administration to give us funding so we could start expanding our cemetery. When we're saying expanding, we're talking about more burial grounds to include mitigations of the fence line, the damage that was caused to Typhoon Mawar, and previous damages that has not been addressed at the cemetery because of lack of funding. What had happened was a letter was submitted to my predecessor based on his $14 million grant application. The consideration came back that we are considering awarding Guam $8.2 million out of the $14 million. The rationale behind that is because they don't have enough funding for any type of mitigation, but enough funding for expansion of the cemetery only. So it was a consideration, but the funds has not been handed over to us. There was much excitement and joy, as I was too, that we were going to get it. We're just not going to get it in 2023. It looks like we're going to get it October of 2024. Based on the cemetery data that I submitted to the National Cemetery Administration, they decided to move us from priority 1 a year ago to priority 3 because we still have about 4 more years remaining of life down at the cemetery to be able to bury our veterans and their loved ones. So we haven't lost it. I will be leaving on the 15th of this month to Kentucky to continue to negotiate and talk about more veteran cemetery grants to Guam to help with the mitigation needs. Mitigation needs, because I know the expansion is there. I just now need help for grants so that I could remove a hill that's going to cost probably $500,000, if not more, an acre and a half, so I could expand for 1,200 more burial grounds. I'm going to request for another $500,000 for the cul-de-sac up on the top of the hill, for the movement of that hill that continues to move inch and inch every year for mitigation. I could tell you what they told me back in February is, Joe, we only have enough for expansion. Can you find resources within your own to help the mitigation? And I bring this up to y'all because each one of those P's is going to cost, that project is going to cost at least several millions of dollars. But it has to happen. So those are the activities that are happening down there with regards to that $8.2 million. We're not losing it. It's there. And in saying that, you know, when we talk about coming together, senators, just about most of y'all, with the exception of the younger ones, you know, Mr. Kanata doesn't really personally know me. But why would you not call me and say, hey, come to my office, I want to ask you what's going on? Or come on down there. Come on down to your cemetery, visit your cemetery, visit your loved ones. I'm even making a consideration of, hey, bring flowers when you feel like it and place the flowers on your loved ones whenever you feel like it. I'm not going to restrict you. You know, come on down, see what's happening. But for you all to not have the confidence in your director to say, hey, what's going on? There's nothing for me to hide, and if I was going to hide something, I couldn't go to sleep at night. But it's this body, my boss, and the people, the veterans and their family, that I'm obligated to make sure this is the information. And if it's not the information, I won't provide it. And that's why there's at times where I sequester and not provide that information until it's solid. And that's just the way it works. Okay, let's go with the renovation. $816,000 American Rescue Plan funding for the renovation of the cemetery, the chapel, the admin building, and the maintenance building. That is already in motion. There's measurements being taken. There's action being taken for shipment of the material so that that renovation begins, which started this month. I've been told it's going to take 1 year to finish. They also think that it's probably going to be sooner than that. But the renovation is in motion for your cemetery, admin building, your chapel, and your maintenance building. They're telling me that the chapel will be done within 3 to 4 months. As soon as that's done, we'll take the curtain down and we'll start having our folks utilize that chapel for its main intention. Okay? But we've been working hard, and we will continue to work hard to do whatever we could do to continue and do what we could to take care of our veterans and their families. So that's where the renovation project is. The Veterans Commission, senators, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize that it almost took about a year to stand it up, but the rationale behind it is we need to identify funding for the advertisement. But with that said, I have been meeting just about monthly with all the nonprofit organizations talking about the state that we're in, the status that we're in, and none of them has brought any complaints to me with regards to what is it that their displeasure is, with the exception of that we need to get the Veterans Commission up and running. And I asked them for their confidence because the director was one and the same. I was the chairperson of the commission and also now the director, which I had to step down because of conflict of interest. But the thing is, I will not compromise any one of those positions. It's just that I asked them, just give me confidence and support me on this. So we're going to get complaints, and that's what it's there for. You know, I was told by Johnny, he wants to sit up here and be with me. And I said, no. I want to hear the people and then deal with whatever questions, issues that they have. And we'll make it happen if we can make it happen. But as of last Friday, the commission has been stood up. Their first official meeting will be on the 26th of this month in the order of business that they deem necessary to address any of the issues that our veterans and their families have and issues that they have with me. I want you all to make this very clear and understood that while they are an advisory commission, just like you all, if you tell me something, I will take it and run with it, if it's a good thing. If it's something not so good, I'll take it and shine it up and make it better. 30 years in the Marine Corps. My interest in this is to do the right thing for the people in the government. And I never give up fighting. And I will continue to do that. With that said, Madam Vice Speaker, Madam Speaker, and honorable senators, I thank you very much for this joint status hearing for the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, for the veterans that are here today, the veterans that are not with us but are listening in. Thank you for your service. Come down to your office. As a matter, let me do this, 688-5117. put 671 before it. And if you cannot get a hold of anybody, that's my personal cell phone. Just don't text me and threaten me and say, dumb. Tell me what you need, I'll address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. San Augustine. Before we open up the floor to questions, I want to remind my colleagues, please, that we have allocated time in our agenda for our veterans who are here to testify before us. So with this in mind, I'm respectfully asking members to keep their questions focused and concise so that all of those who wish to testify have time to do so. I will note that we continue to receive folks signing in. Right now, I have 5 pages of veterans who want to say something. So we'll start the questioning from the oversight, and then I will proceed with my colleagues. So I'm asking for your indulgence, please, colleagues, to keep it concise. As it relates, Mr. Director, from the Operations and Administration, how many employees does your agency currently have? And how many work at the cemeteries?
We have, for the cemetery side, we have 5. And then at the administration side, we have 8.
And there, how many of them are VSOs? That's 5, right? 2?
4. 4 are veteran
VSOs.
service representatives.
How many employees does your agency need to comply with the agency's enabling statute in Chapter 67 of Title 10 Guam Code annotated? How many employees will you need based on this enabling legislation?
We would need about 30
30?
to comfortably operate.
Okay.
And that's for, so we are in need of at least 6 more veteran service officers. With the 6 and the 4, that would be 10 total. For the cemetery side of the house, we would at least need 12.
Your office recently communicated that you lack the necessary staff of software to be able to validate and update our locally maintained database of registered veterans. Has your office requested employees to be detailed from other agencies or Adelup to help in this effort?
Yes, in fact, we are in communication with Guam State Clearinghouse. Stephanie Flores, the director, has recently said that she would assign 1 or 2, if possible, to assist Tanya Eubanks, our veteran service officer, with data collection. Vice Speaker, going back to the software, we also communicated with the office of our Congressman, Jim Moylan, as well as Senator Dwayne Nicholas, that yes, currently the office does not have a software that would house any type of data that's being collected. Right now, all our data that's being collected, we are putting them on external hard drives to preserve them, but we also recognize that that may not be a safe avenue on our part because if the external hardware gives out. But for now, that is the best that we have as far as resources for data collection.
So I guess with that being said, what sorts of computer-based tasks do you plan on utilizing that are not available on Excel, Google Sheets, or another freely available spreadsheet software?
Well, currently we are working with the Office of the Congressman to identify funding and a possible software that we may be able to procure or be able to purchase to help us with that. That is still in the works. The Congressman's office has recently reached out to us that there is a grant that we may work closely with them to see if we could qualify for that grant to assist us with that. Okay. And that would assist for both the financial part as well as identifying a software.
Thank you. Can I call your attention to these photos? And AV's brought some of them up. These photos taken last week show what appear to be the remaining typhoon debris at your facilities, including at the Veterans Cemetery and outside your office in Assen. Why were they not disposed of at the designated waste sites when they were operational, and how long would it take for your office to properly dispose of them?
Madam Vice Speaker, I am very surprised that we're able to put something up like that on the screen, but not the agenda. So in saying that, when you are looking at ensuring that your utilization of funds are at the most effective way that it is possible, it doesn't take less than a week to remove those debris. Those are considered green waste. Those are considered trees that we continue to remove after the Typhoon Mauer event. And the way it's being disposed and should be disposed is to a rental for green waste only container. While it is eyesore within that respective area, that area is out of bounds for any type of burial. That is one of the sites that are going to be demolished for the expansion. Here's the dilemma. I do not want to rent a green waste container, be charged to put all that trash in there, pay a certain amount higher than what the trash is. My intent and my instruction to the cemetery workers is put it in one area. Once I deem that the amount of green waste is appropriate for one huge container that is cheaper, then I'll bring it in and we'll put it in there. That's how that works. They took that part. How about the part where they water blast the asphalt? No one took that part. Why should you water blast the asphalt, Mr. San Augustine? Because it's part of the cemetery. But that part they took, which is okay. That is the future expansion location of the cemetery. Can I get rid of that within this week? Most absolutely. But I'm going to pay a full container of trash, only half full. The thing about it is I'm not dumping it in any illegal area. It's within the confines controlled by the cemetery workers and myself. I directed it that it be placed there. So in saying this, there is no way that veterans and ourselves can ever come together when there is damage being done. Why don't they come down there with their U-Haul truck and say, Mr. Joe, let me hold this out for you? How can we? How can we? It's a separation right here. And this is your house. This here have a different agenda, and this here has a total different agenda. Visit your cemetery. That location where that green waste is photo, I instructed it to be placed there until there's enough that I could bring in one huge container at a cheaper price, put it in there and get rid of it. But because this happened, this will happen this week. But with the cemetery funds, which I utilize to offset this cost, it's going to cost me just a little bit more for a huge container that's half full. So we want to get along. Let me say this. Let's not just do it during this time. And I'm not that ugly for none of you all to call me and say, come on down here. I want to talk to you.
Thank you.
I'm always willing. I'm always willing. And none of you all know me. And I'll say this too. I've been made aware that 3 within this body reached out to the National Cemetery Administration questioning the information that I'm here to provide you for. Use me, abuse me, let me work for you. But don't tarnish. I'm surprised they took that part. Why didn't they take the part where it's water blasted, nice and clean? My job, and the reason why I do that, is to turn that cemetery into the way it is, like it is in the federal. That's my job. If y'all want to get rid of me, it's going to be difficult because I'm doing my job. And I will continue to do that. That's what I believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Director, it was no pun intended for you. I'm just showing you photos that were taken most recently before this hearing. With that, before I ask my next question, I'd like to thank my other colleagues who have joined us, Senator Tello Taitagui, Senator Joe San Augustine, the Oversight Chair of Finance, the Minority Leader, Senator Frank Blas, and I think I see Senator Roy Canata. I want to thank my colleagues for being here this morning. Again, as we look at these oversight based on this agenda, I am asking questions based on each section of this. If you don't have a copy of this, you're more than welcome to go to the table and get a copy of that. As it relates to the citizen-centric report that I noted that your last one was on 2020, when will the citizen-centric report for your agency be submitted?
Madam Vice Speaker, you know, it's not only that, there's other reports.
Sir, but I'm asking
And
about
at
that.
the end of
If
this
you
month.
can just give me an answer.
Give me the end of this month.
Thank you.
Is that
Thank
okay?
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I know it was brought up a little bit earlier, but I just want to make sure, as it relates to budget and finance, when will GOVA again submit the budget requests to the legislature? And I'm hoping, you said it's already submitted?
The first request already, Madam Speaker, went out
And it's submitted into
and
the
submitted to
committee?
BBMR.
Okay. Thank you. I know that you mentioned that for the upcoming fiscal year, we should expect a status quo budget. Does that mean that there will not be any request for further investments into your office, and such as to hire more veteran service officers or for equipment? And how do you justify, on one hand, underlining the need in this hearing for more employees, while on the other hand, submit a budget to request without any employees as you say you need? So just a justification on that, because you said it's status quo, and if it's status quo, then it doesn't suffice the increase, the concerns that you are addressing to our body. So can you please clarify that?
In my communication, Madam Vice Speaker, with my budget analyst, my instruction was that the budget remains status quo.
But that is not the real, though it remains status quo, your request, I'm trying to help you guys out here.
Yes.
Your requests and desires are for much more, am I correct?
Right.
And do you have a copy of that you can share with this August body?
I will provide that to your office.
Thank you. As it relates to veterans and cemetery, if you can call your attention once again to the monitors, my office again took photos last week to assess the state of our veterans cemetery. These photos show needed maintenance and repairs. And without these grants, how long will it take to make these repair and conduct the needed maintenance? Let me go ahead and finish the question. The other question, what is your office plans to ensure that even absent federal financial assistance, that our cemetery is kept in a shape that honors the service made by our veterans, especially those who paid the ultimate sacrifice to defend our country and island? And I will note also for the record that I did receive more than several testimonies regarding this inquiry. So if you may.
Madam Vice Speaker, thank you for that question, and thank you for that photo. as we strategize how to prevent, to repeat any of this maintenance, and when I say I repeat, to water blast, paint, and then re-water blast, paint every year. My goal is to remove the objects that are causing what you see here, which are the trees, and make sure that we utilize paint that will compel or repel any type of moist or object that will ruin the beauty or the efforts that has been put in to our cemetery. We do have a paint that we're looking at, which we do have like 32 pounds of mildew-resistant paint. So we could have all that paint that we want, but as long as we do not get rid of the trees, the leaves that causes the mildew, we're going to continue to repeat having to do this every year. The strategy behind it is to remove the trees, water blast, and paint with mildew-resistant paint. And so what you're seeing here, it's there, but it's a continuous process, and as we move forward and are able to obtain more workers, I think you're going to see a lot of these issues addressed. The other one that has been photoed that appears to be a crypt at the bottom piece with a broken cover, there's no reason for me to clean something or water blast or paint something that is unusable. That is one area that is going to be demolished and rebuilt with a new structure. So no reason to spend resources and funding there. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. When do you want to start painting, as you noted earlier, on these crypts? Painting?
No, I don't.
You said
So the question is, when are we going to start painting, Madam Vice Speaker?
yes. If
We haven't stopped. We haven't stopped. It's a continuous process. So we address the most immediate areas as we move forward. And I want to get, Senators, it should not be because Memorial Day is coming up, Veterans Day, Reef Across America is coming up, and that's when we do maintenance. That's going to stop. We're going to deal with it as we move forward so that we don't come back next year and water blast again. So that once we paint it, it should be good for 5-10 years according to the paint specs. Okay? But for us to do it because it's Memorial Day, that's not how it should operate. And that is kind of the system I'm trying to set in place. Okay? It's a 16-acre landmass. And not only do we cut grass, trim trees, we are obligated to do burials, beautification, make sure that our clients that are there are well taken care of, our heroes. And if anybody should understand how sensitive that is, it should be somebody like me and many of the veterans around us, if anybody. So I want to make sure that I do this right. That crypt that we're not going to use, I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to go to the crypt where it's occupied and make sure I take care of that veteran or spouse or child that's in there. But it's continuous. But to answer your question for the larger scale of it, we're probably looking about mid-April, because I do have volunteers from the military, volunteers from nonprofits that are asking me to come down and paint. Okay? So I want to prep the place so that when they come down there, they're able to paint and not have to scrape. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Still going down on the agenda as it relates to the commission, I recently saw the long-defunct Veterans Commission was reconvened last week, as you noted earlier. What is the current membership of this commission, and does the commission require more members to ensure a consistent quorum? And I also want to note that based on the enabling legislation, there is a discipline to everyone here on how many members can join, what numbers are from the armed forces and those that are existing, because I understand that there are also several nonprofit organizations who have submitted proper documentation and are asking to join, and I guess to that date, will membership be completed?
Vice Speaker, thank you for that question. Yes, you're right. They had formed officially on the 5th of April, and like I said, their first official meeting will be on the 26th of this month. Based on the law that you're looking at, yes, a minimum of 9 members, yeah. A minimum of 9 members. Would we want to have more? Well, it depends on the makeup of that commission and the chairperson. And I'll say this. I've been informed that, hey, the less members, probably the better, right? And then the other side, the more members, probably the better too. But based on that legislation, based on that law, any nonprofit organization could submit to be a member. And the way that's done is, first, they got to make sure that they are registered as nonprofit up at the Guam Revenue and Tax. Second is they will bring their nonprofit status to me. I will review, and then I will forward that to the Guam Veterans Commission for their review and vote whether they want that particular nonprofit to be part. I will say this, that I'm in support of any nonprofit organization that is here to do something for the veterans and their family. The final decision of that will come from the Guam Veterans Commission.
Thank you.
And that is the condition of that. Now, before I took over, I understood that there were 2 organizations that submitted their nonprofit to the office. And I must apologize because it's nowhere to be found. But please, make a copy of your nonprofit. If you want to be a member of the Veterans Commission, deliver it to my office. I will entertain it and send it forward to wherever it has to go.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Director San Agustin, for that, because it is important as we see a lot of the nonprofit organizations out there continuing to and willing to help, literally, labor of love. I think it's important that these NPOs get recognized for the work that they're doing and work with you guys on that, as this is the reason why this meeting is being held. I did ask a lot of concise questions, but I'm going to yield this time right now to the chair, the Oversight Chair of Veterans Affairs, for his questioning, and then I will start off with the speaker after that. So, Senator Dwayne, you may proceed.
Good morning again. Thank you, Mr. Director. Sir, what is your rank in the military?
Well, when I retired after 30 years, I retired as an E9. That's a Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant. To many of my other counterparts, the Army, where they're familiar with a Sergeant Major E9, it's equivalent but of different profession. I decided to take the educational side and the leadership side, but to answer your question, it's E9. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director. You know, in the beginning of my term, you came to me as a regular citizen concerned about moving veterans' issues forward. Now you're the director. You remember that earlier in the beginning? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And you brought all the concerns that we're now dealing with, but now you're the director. And I wanted to thank you for taking up that, you know, the cause. I apologize for those pictures. I didn't put them up. I didn't want to sharpshoot. But the explanation was good and straightforward. I understand that you're trying to be, you're doing your best with what resources, and you don't want to spend them. You know, you want to make the best of it and stretch it out. I don't really have any questions for you. Well, maybe I do. The cemetery, you know, it's I think before you were the director, they were using it as storage. You know, it's a very sanctified place, and I want to know the update is how the renovation, how's it coming along?
Well, so to answer your question there, Mr. Chair, the renovation have just started. A measurement has been taken. Some questions has been asked on me by the contractor, and I told them that I make sure we defer those questions to DPW so that they know what's going on as well. But it's moving forward. I think we're planning to have a groundbreaking at the end of this month. It depends, because I got to travel next week, right? So we're going to do a groundbreaking. But to answer your question, the renovation is going to benefit the cemetery fully, but there's more work that needs to be done.
Thank you, sir. The next question is directed to the VSO. Ma'am, your name again?
Tanya Eubanks.
Miss Eubanks.
Mrs. Eubanks.
What is the difficulty you see in your job as a VSO with the current veteran situation?
The difficulty? Time.
Time?
There's not enough time in the day.
And so you said there's, how many of you? 4?
There's 4 of us.
And how many, what's the caseload?
Oh, gosh. My apologies, I didn't come with those numbers, but I see roughly 10 clients a week in person, and I entertain roughly 4 to 5 over the phone via email on a daily basis. And you know, as a matter of fact, I was covering for one of the burials this past Saturday. I was announcing the representation for the final military honors, and I just decided to do a little bit of, you know, catching up on my emails and, you know, correspondences to all the other veterans that have sent me emails. So even outside of my business hours, you know, I try to do the best that I can with, you know, whatever I have.
And it's not unheard of. I heard from other VSOs down from the Veterans Office that they, you know, they're really trying to help our veterans. Our veterans also have different, like they come with different varying degrees of where they're at in the adjudication process.
Yes.
And how many clients you could probably tell me that maybe they've had submitted a claim and they probably wrongly did it because maybe the wrong information was given to them?
I've actually had several. I've had several of veterans that are represented by our office, right? There's an established representation with the VA Form 2122 that was submitted to the VA. So that gives us that legal representation, right? But when the veteran chooses to either file on his own or go elsewhere, you know, what we have access to in our office is we have access to the actual federal system. So it's called VBMS. It's the Veteran Benefit Management System. But we can't see just any veteran, right? That's what the folks over at T10, they can see that because they're the benefits office on the federal side. They're VBA. But we can only see the records of those that we are actually representing. So there have been times where I would get, because we get a courtesy copy of all the letters that go out to every one of the veterans that we serve. And when I'm filing it away, I'm reviewing the letter and it's showing that, oh, you basically, you know, the gist of it is that you put the information on the wrong form. Now that, because of the scope of our office, right, we have that ability to actually look, and we have to be thorough. That's part of our ethics, right, is to be thorough when we're, you know, representing veterans and we're assisting them with the preparation of their claim. So, you know, I'd go in and I would look to see if they have filed for any of these conditions, you know, previously. That way I know what form to use. Otherwise, it just prolongs the veteran's, you know, claim process, because that claim will be submitted. The VA will say, hey, you basically put it on the wrong form. Send them a letter. They receive the letter. They're like, what is this? What do I do now? So then they have to come back to my office, and we would have to, you know, rectify that by putting it on the proper form. And then the process for the claims, right now, I believe on the VA website, it says for 152 days. But it really all depends, right? It all depends on how many conditions you're filing for, you know, how much medical records or evidence that you're submitting to the VA. Because remember, when the VA receives your claim, they're going to make their decision based off of the evidence that they have in front of them, right? So if it's a lot, then they have a lot to go through. If it's a little, then they have a little to go through. But yeah, did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. And so do you discuss with the veteran that the VBA is like it's like a court system? You got to present evidence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do that from the very beginning, right? So when we establish representation, whenever they sign that form, I make sure that they understand what it is that they're signing, and I go over the claims process, right? From gathering all of your evidence or asking them what conditions or elements that you have right now that you can connect to your time in the military. Now, if a service member just recently separated, of course it's going to be easy to make that connection because they just separated. Maybe a year, maybe 2, maybe 5. But for veterans that separated in the 80s and the 90s, that's the challenging part, because the mentality of, you know, even my director, of you, when you guys were serving, you don't go to sick call, right? You were trained to suck it up and push through that pain, right? And to focus on your mission. So you don't have time to go and say, hang on a second, you know, let me put my gun down, I gotta go to the doctor. So, you know, when it's not documented, the VA has to look, right, at your in-service treatment records and your in-service personnel records. They look at your, you know, reports and all of that stuff. So when there is no connection, that makes it difficult for the veteran to get service connection. So part of my job is to try to guide the veteran, you know, so that they have to be truthful, right? They have to document all of the different things that they went through while they were serving, right? Because, again, when the VA makes a decision on your claim, they're going to make that based on the evidence that's in front of them. So when you provide a personal testimony, a buddy statement, a lay statement, you know, from you, from your spouse, from your battle buddy, you're giving the VA, you know, evidence that they don't have in front of them, and it's that personal statement, which they do have to take into consideration as a form of evidence, provided that it is credible. So you can't just say, I got hurt, right? You have to be really detailed and explain.
Thank you for that, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And when I was going through the process, it took like almost 2 years to get a claims statement or adjudication.
Mm-hmm.
What is the time now for adjudication from the moment you put in a claim to the time you get it back, or an answer from the VA?
Based on the VA's website right now, I believe the average day from the time you file until the time it's adjudicated is 152 days. Yeah, but again, it's case by case. I actually have a veteran who has a claim that's been open for over a year. And part of that is because maybe he didn't have an honorable condition. He didn't have a general condition. He had an under honorable condition, which in those cases, it has to go through character of discharge review board. So we're still waiting on that.
Sorry, I have so much questions for you. It's just,
That's okay.
you know,
That's
the
okay.
frustration I think with the VA is actually more toward veterans benefits than anywhere else. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of concerns everywhere. But I think most of the focus for our veterans is actually adjudication, submitting. But you also explain to them that these things are time barred. That you know, once the VA gives you a letter, you have a certain day to respond, or otherwise it becomes permanent, the decision.
Well, you can always, you know, if the VSO receives that same letter and then we communicate with the veteran, say 30 days is like almost up, because by the time the veteran receives that letter, you know, this is Guam. It all comes from Janesville, Wisconsin, or Hawaii, right? By the time it gets here, they don't have much time to respond. So we can always, as the VSO, because we can act on their behalf, we can submit in a statement to ask for an extension due to whatever circumstances arises.
All right, I think I might have asked everything I wanted to ask. I just wanted to say E9, Sergeant Major Gunning. E9's word is as good as gold to me. I want to help, you know, I hope you continue to do the very best that you can with the limited resources, and I'd like to thank you again for working toward the best for our veterans. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing further.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator San Nicolas. I will yield to Speaker Therese Chalaye at this time,
Sizos
and
Masi.
then the Vice Chair.
Sizos Masi, Madam Chair. And I want to acknowledge and thank all the veterans who are here this morning. There are many more outside in the lobby. So thank you again for being here, and thank you for your testimony, Mr. Director. Just want to start off with the whole theme of not enough resources, and you're not getting the support that you needed from the legislature. But when I look at the budget requests over the years, in FY23, the budget was 1.07 million. In FY24, and as you know, your office's budget is submitted to BBMR, as you said, and then BBMR puts it together with the rest of the government of Guam budget and sent to the legislature, and it's called the governor's request. That's the governor's request for budgets for all of the agencies. And so in FY24, we funded 1.2 million. That was exactly as requested by the governor. And in FY25, as you said, the upcoming fiscal year, you've submitted the exact same budget to the BBMR, 1.2 million, status quo. So that is also been included in the governor's request, status quo, 1.2 million. And yet you say that you need 30 more employees, or you need 30 total employees versus the 13 that you have right now. And I guess I hope that you understand why that doesn't make sense to us, right? If you're asking for the same amount, yet you're saying you're short, then there's a disconnect between you, BBMR, and the governor in the request. And we can do what we can, and our chairs always try to do this, but you know, it's very hard for us to go and say what you're requesting and what the governor's requesting is not legitimate. Also on the VSRs, so these are the representatives that we want them to be certified, right? And you say that you only have 5, but in 2021, the Lieutenant Governor announced a $40,000 DOI grant to train 10 more. And their announcement said we would go from 5 to 15 after that grant, after that training. So what happened to the 10 more that was trained pursuant to that grant?
Jesus Masi, Madam Speaker. So in regards to the 10 that were trained, that was under the previous director. And it is unfortunate that they never pulled through with, so they took the first initial training. And now just keep in mind that these people that were trained are only on a volunteer basis. And so when the previous director, took care of that training, after the training, a on-the-job training plan was supposed to be implemented. Unfortunately, that fell through. It never progressed, and so a year later now, they still have not done the on-the-job training. So those 10 individuals that were trained are supposed to shadow the current veteran service officers.
So you're saying that we didn't select wisely who was going to receive the training, or that you have not followed up on those people?
That was done prior to my move to Guam Office of Veteran Affairs.
But you've been there, Tanya?
Yes, I've been there. My understanding is that there is no excuse, and it just never happened. So it's not my decision, obviously I'm one of the Tentagus, right? I just do as I'm told. But I do also have to focus on the clients that I'm serving currently, so it was out of my hands, so it just never happened.
Well, that's a shame, and I don't really like the answers, oh, it was the previous director, because you're now there, and we have to follow up and do whatever we can. That's a shame. What about the efforts for the registry? So that's one of the agenda topics, was the registry. So there have been no reports regarding the updates to the registry. And I know, Mr. St. Augustine, when I first became a senator and I worked with you, that was one of the big things. And it's pointed out in the congressman's letter that our numbers don't match the veterans, the U.S. Veterans Affairs numbers as to how many veterans we have on Guam. That is what's preventing us from getting services that the veterans are entitled to. And that's why they won't, do certain things here. So that was one of the big gists that we were going to do. And at the time, I don't remember a complaint that we didn't have software in order to manage the data, but we made efforts to get additional ways to bring in those registry, or to accurately count our numbers through Rev and Tax. Any applications through Rev and Tax where they're showing their status as veterans, that should be forwarded to your office, hopefully to be added. That mayors are required to do annual census. We passed a law that they also are required to forward their data, and actually anyone in the government who's required any information to confirm that someone is a veteran or not, that they would also forward to your office. But we have not seen reports as to whether any of those have been effective, or anything else, if outreach has been effective, because we haven't seen the annual reports or the regular reports from your office as to the registry numbers, whether we're going up, down, or, yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Why,
for that.
why are those reports not being filed?
Speaker?
Why are those reports not being filed?
I don't think the registry report is required, not that I'm aware of. However, if you're requesting, we'll make it happen. So let me give to you the 2023 new Veterans Registry report that we got. So from January 2023 to December 2024, we have a total of 334 newly registered veterans that came down to our office, and to some degree, DD-214s that were collected from Department of Revenue and Tax, motor vehicle, or licensing. Let me tell you the hesitation that's happening here. So when the veteran go there and a representative from those entities request for the DD-214, because of the sensitivity of the Social Security number, you're going to see hesitation of that happening. That's why it is smart that we maintain the system that we have there, where they come down and register with us, bring their DD-214, because that's mainly where they're going to end up residing. For 2024, we're up to like 230 some from January to present, newly registered veterans. So we're doing really good. Now, if you're requiring me to submit that report, it should not be a problem. I'll be more than happy to. Now, let's go back to when you and I started the registry.
Sir, yeah. So that is already required. 10 GCA, section 67110B, or C. Yeah, so it just says the administrator of the Office of Veterans Affairs shall submit a quarterly progress report of the Guam Veterans Registry to the Speaker. So maybe we could just get that in writing. And I'm glad to hear that there are improvements, and you're increasing the numbers. That's great.
We'll make it happen.
All right.
Yeah.
And just about this Veterans Convention, as you said, we put that bill in right after it was requested, after we could get some information. And we went through this whole thing, even in the public hearing and on the session floor. We were in the session, I think, towards the end of February or March. And after that whole thing, we got a letter from BBMR that shows that your office was actually informed on February 1st of the $100,000 in ARP money that was loaded into your account, it says, on February 1st. And so now you're saying that the convention will be held in June 2024, but you also said you will not decide until we get procurement in place. What are you doing to get procurement in place? It's just a solicitation of a venue, right?
Yes. We actually, Madam Speaker, we actually have done our market research. The setback that our office is facing right now is that we do not have access to the procurement site. We haven't even gone through the training with the new system. We are on the current list waiting for training. We were informed that the persons that are going to be in charge of submitting in requisitions must go through the procurement module courses that are being offered either at UOG or GCC. I have taken module 1 already of that, but we still need to...
In the interim, Department of Administration can't do that for you to get that convention going? I don't
That's what- yes,
understand this
and you're right.
government if that's the case.
Yes, that's where we're leaning toward to help us with the requisition and procurement.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll work on that.
Thank you.
Thank
And you said it took a year to find funding in order to make an advertisement, in order to call the Veterans Commission together. Where did you finally find the funding for the ad?
So that funding is coming out of the ARP.
Yeah, you received a significant amount of ARP money, right? And you said you're
Right.
using, so you've had that money for a while.
Right.
Yeah, I don't understand that 1 year for that either.
It's being used now, Madam Speaker. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Madam Chair. I have other questions, but we'll wait.
Thank you, Speaker Solari. I will now yield to the Vice Chair of the committee, Senator Frank Blas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sonalstein, thank you very much for being here, as well as everybody that's here. Mr. Sonalstein, like this is one of the submissions that you provided to the committee? That's prior year, right? Do you recognize this citizen-centric report? Yeah, well,
We're due for the report.
you're due for the report.
Yes.
Okay. Give me some highlights as to what we should expect in this report. The last report was in 2020. It's 2024 now. So what are some of the significant?
Well, I think the highlight that you may see there, Mr. Senator, is much of our accomplishment, right, and much of our preventive measures to make sure that we're utilizing the funding that's provided to us to the best that we could. That the expenditures that was appropriated to us is being utilized for the purpose that it was appropriated to us for. And other activities and that are happening within our office.
Okay. What very specifically is your office assigned to do for veterans?
So specifically by law is to assist the veterans and their families for compensation benefits, and also the shareholder, the holder of the registry, the veteran registry.
Okay, so you said assist the veteran with benefits
That's correct.
and then
And compensation.
and compensation.
That's correct.
And the second one is what? The registry.
The registry, yes.
All right. How closely do you work with the U.S. Department of Veterans Administration?
It's probably this close, Mr. Senator.
I can get one of those too.
No, I hope not, because there's a requirement to get it. But we work pretty close. And you know, just to let you know, I just came back from the National Veterans Directors Conference back in February.
Uh-huh.
So we work pretty close.
All right. And this is just the benefit side. Define the benefit side.
And cemeteries and just about every topic that concerns the veteran.
I'm trying to understand what specifically you do, or what the office is tasked to do, and what you are doing. Because you see, now we talk about the registry. You said you're in charge of the registry?
That's right, by law. Yes,
What's the registry number as provided by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs?
Well, if you're going to access, it's between 8 to 12,000.
And what's
right?
your registry number?
24,000.
24,000.
My hard copy. Our
So-
hard copy of
Is that 24,000 veterans or 24,000 cases?
cases that are cases of the veterans.
So you can actually have 24,000 names,
Yes, sir.
but You say you work very closely with the Veterans Affairs, so why is it that the Department of Veterans Affairs only has 8,000 and you have 24,000?
If I may,
Yes.
the numbers that come from the federal side are the veterans that are actually service-connected or compensated. So there's a lot of veterans that don't have service
Not
connection
necessarily,
at all.
man, because you see, the thing is, I know of a very specific and very personal case where the person is not getting compensated, but is registered under the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
I'm lost with the question, Senator.
You just finished saying that the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, their numbers are based on the numbers of veterans who are compensated, right? That's the representation.
Well, which side are we looking at? Are we looking at Veteran Health Administration
No, I'm
or
talking-
Veteran Benefit Administration?
I'm talking about the number of registered veterans.
Registered veterans on the Veteran Benefit Administration or the Veteran Health Administration. So the VA is comprised of 3 different departments, right? Veteran Health, Veteran Benefit, and the National Cemetery. And we don't have an integrated system where we can just pull the numbers and just, check to see, whatever the case may be. So my question is the numbers that you are referring to from registry, is that on the Veteran Health Administration or the Veteran Benefit Administration?
Okay, let's break that question up into two parts. How many veterans do you have registered with your office under Veterans Health?
We don't provide health services at our office.
Well, you just finished saying you provide every service for Veterans Affairs. Did you
with
just say
regards,
that?
he said with regards to compensation, and which is on the Veteran Benefit Administration side.
Okay.
Yes.
So how many veterans do you have registered there?
Based on the actual,
So, Senator, in 2022, as of May, we had a hard count of 28,000. Presently, our record management office is filtering that for veterans who have since passed on, have since relocated, and so the hard count number that we have to date is 24,000.
Okay, 24,000.
For the Guam Office of Veteran Affairs, which, as stated by Mrs. Eubanks, we are not integrated with the bigger VA, and those numbers are solely just for the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs.
Okay, so but I'm trying to understand why there's a huge delta between what is represented or provided by United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Guam Veterans Affairs Office. There's a huge delta, 24,000 and 8,000.
You know, Senator, partly that could be veterans that have gone through Hawaii for health, for attention to health. They don't report back to us. So we have a big number of our veterans here in Guam that do not access Hawaii's services. So that is why our count is very much different with Hawaii's count.
Okay. So what you're saying then, Joe, is that the 8,000 veterans that the Department of Veterans, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs has in their names is inclusive of the 24,000 veterans that you have in your registry?
Yes, sir.
but I could tell you this too. That number has been the same number back in 2016. And
Okay.
if you read further down on the smaller letter, give or take 1,000.
Okay.
I will venture to say that I would like to make our counts here as accurate as possible based on the records that we have. Because we should take the most interest compared to,
And Joe, the reason why I'm
Sure.
asking this, okay, sir, Mr. Director, is there's always been the claim by U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs that we don't have enough veterans to justify a what do you call that, enhancement to our, to the medical services. Okay? And you have 24,000 registered veterans, or 24,000 veteran names. They have 8,000 registered veterans. Has there been any conversation between, with the U.S. Department of Administration, or the U.S. Department of Veterans Administration, about the numbers that you have? And find out, okay, Where's the disparity? What is that number that we need to hit?
It's an ongoing thing. It's a good question. They're going to keep their interest. We're going to have to fight for ours.
Sure.
Okay? Because even back in the U.S., what we're seeing here, they have the same problem back in the rural areas. So we're trying to fight to have medical services, more benefits establishment here in Guam, but they're having that same problem in the U.S., where they have a clinic 200 miles away and a veteran wouldn't drive because it's too far. Okay, so they're having that same challenges, but to answer your question, Senator,
I understand that, Mr. San Agustin, but you know, at the same time, when you're talking about a veteran in rural services who says he has to drive 200 miles, Ninayan, the veteran here on Guam, can drive 3,800 miles to go get.
That's why we have to fight our own fight.
Okay, so there's no. I mean, for me.
Yeah.
Okay. When you do the apples to apples comparison, and the 200 miles that the veteran in the rural area has to drive to, as compared to the 3,800 miles that the veteran has to fly to. Okay, big difference. I'm not going against you on this. I just want you to, the mindset, and as far as, well, they've got the problems in the rural areas. Good, that's their problem. This is our problem.
That's right.
Our problem is we have 30K, is we have the veteran numbers here. Okay? Now, question that I have here, is that 24,000 just those veterans that live on Guam?
Senator, the 24,000 are the active files that we have in our file room. So what RMO is doing now under the direction of Director San Agustin is, as he stated, the new registry and those veterans that have ongoing cases that are filed or claims that are being filed, we update that registry so that we can keep it in our data collection. We are identifying now that we have some veterans that have relocated and some veterans that have since passed. So as we're collecting data, we're also researching those veterans that have relocated or have since passed. And our office presently has closed out year 2020, 2021, 2022, and currently are in the last stages of working for year 2023 for veterans that have since passed.
Okay. Well, you know, I've got more questions, but I'm sure that my colleagues too have got other questions as well. So I'll go ahead and yield the rest of my time for now. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minority Leader. We have shared that we set up coffee, water, and tea in the lobby for everyone. Thank you, Speaker. And if anybody wants that, there's that outside. At this time, I will yield, and I apologize to the colleagues that came in earlier, but the Vice Chair of Senator Dwayne San Nicolas's committee, Senator Duenas, I will yield to you at this time.
Madam Chair, and thank you for all the veterans that are here. Thank you for your sacrifice. I currently have 3 immediate family members serving, so I certainly understand a lot of the things that you've given up to take care of our people. Madam Chair, I'm anxious to hear from the veterans that are here, so I just got a couple of comments. I don't want to ask questions. I want to wait to hear from them. But Mr. San Agustin, I just have a couple of things to mention to you, including some of the veterans that are here in this room that have asked me questions, particularly with the $8.2 million on the grant. I send them to you, sir, because of the fact that it was the release from the governor's office that claimed that the grant award was issued. And this was back, I believe, in March of 2022. So the reason why the questions keeps coming to us from individuals posing them to us is because that announcement was made. And I share a lot of the comments that the speaker was making as well. The other issue is, and this is in personal meetings with many veterans organizations as well as individuals, I look at the agenda, and once again I want to associate my comments with the speaker, and every single item here really is execution in nature. But we can't help you if you don't ask for the help. The bottom line is you can't keep coming to us with a status quo budget and then saying you need more people. That there's no equation that makes sense in there. In fact, most of the testimonies that have been submitted that I'm reading are asking us, the thing that we can do is to provide you the resources to expand your services and to get the services to the veterans that are asking for it. So I don't want to belabor that here, because you're going to have a budget hearing, and that's the time when we're going to nail this thing down and really say, ask for what you need. Especially in a time now when there are plenty of resources. In the past, maybe a status quo budget is understandable because there's little means to go around. But now the money is quite adequate. So please come to us with a budget request that is going to be reflective of getting the services to the individuals and the assistance that they're requesting and requiring. So just in closing, beyond that, like I said, because another thing that I always try to explain to veterans organizations, individuals, and the like, and this is what I hope I can derive from this hearing today by listening to those who have come to testify, is we will generate legislation based on what the legislature needs to do to provide in law. But the fundamentals of the services for the veterans, really, it's an executive function. And so we need to make sure that we're getting requested what's needed to pull these things off. But if I hear something today from any individual organization that requires the construction of legislation to put into bill form, you certainly have my commitment to do that. But I want to listen to the folks that have come. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. At this time, I will recognize the Legislative Secretary, Senator Amanda Shelton.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, for the time today, and to our team from the Veterans Office for being here this morning. I, too, am eager to hear the testimony. I know we have a long list, and I do have questions for you folks, but as Mr. San Agustin said, it is easy to reach out, so I do have clarifying questions, but I'll hold them till the end or speak with you later on so that we can give our time to the veterans who have been waiting this long. So, Madam Chair, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Legislative Secretary Shelton. Senator Jesse Lahan, I will address you at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. San Agustin, Mr. Mano, Ms. Eubanks, and the veterans that are here this morning as well. I too would want to listen to the veterans and they have to say. But just to reiterate a couple things that were mentioned earlier. Mr. San Agustin, you said your budget is 1.2 million at this point? What? 1.2 million,
1.2,
right? Okay,
yes, sir.
1.2 million. Of the 1.2 million, you have a total of, you said you have 8 people in administration, right? 8? 5 in the cemetery site, right? And 4 as VSRs? Yes, okay. And you were needing, you said your needs would be basically 30 more to have ample operations, right? 30 more. That would mean, okay, you currently have 17 employees, right? Okay. So with, how would you divide the 13 employees that you would need to get to 30? You said you need a total of 10, so that 6 will go to the VSRs, right?
Yes,
Okay.
6 for the VSRs. Okay. As an office.
Okay.
And then on the administration side, and that includes the record management office. Okay. Currently, we have 2 LTEs that are assigned with the record management office. So, you know, if those LTEs are not renewed, we lose those staff. I'm the only classified employee on the administration side at GOVA. And so we need to be consistent. You know, we need to have more staff to become classified to create to help support in the administration side. And then down at the cemetery.
Yeah, and I'm wanting to move forward. I want to see how we can help. You know, of course, the Veterans Administration and in moving forward. Now, in regards to 1.2 million, you said the status quo. You're asking for the status quo from last year to this year's budgeting. How much of the 1.2 goes just to salaries at this point?
For 24, it's to include salaries and fringe benefits. So just salaries alone is 100,201, and then
Salary?
Benefits.
Salaries for the
Yes.
17 employees?
Right,
Okay.
is 546,909, and that's just from the Asan site.
Okay.
For the cemetery, salaries are 448,259, and for fringe benefits, it's 222,226 for fringe benefits.
Okay. Okay. So minus the services, the other services that you may provide is basically, it's really insufficient as well. Just for operations, right, and salaries.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you were told by your budget analyst again to come up or just submit a status quo budget.
Right.
Can you submit to the legislature your actual need
Yes.
for budget?
Yes. I stated to Vice
Okay.
Speaker that I'll submit to Vice Speaker as well as Senator San Augustine's office for his support.
So roughly, what does that look like? What does that actual need look like?
The budget that was presented for 23-24 was 2.9,
2.9.
right?
Okay.
And that would include the hiring of more VSRs, a few customer service representatives to support the administration side.
Okay.
And that's also to include the cemetery workers.
Okay. So the 23-24 budget, the actual need was 2.9.
Right.
Okay. What do you project that to go to in the 25-26 budget?
Well, if I'm going to submit it to the body, and hopefully we can get support for that coming for 24-25.
Okay. It was mentioned earlier that there was training that was given to some folks for VSRs, but then it didn't go anywhere. Do you still have a listing of those trainings?
We do, Senator. Mrs. Eubanks has a listing of that. We also have their certificates, and I was made aware that they were given, or a few of them were given the certificates. We would have to go back with the director to discuss that. I also pointed out to the director that, to put together the on-the-job training, that's not a problem. Our office can handle that. It's the space. Currently, our office cannot, we're barely being able to house ourselves. We don't have any space even for ourselves, right? So if we move forward with the all-JT, where are we going to house these 10 individuals? And so that's another setback for us, because we don't have the space to put them. And we're working with Guam State Clearinghouse to attain the resources such as the laptops that they will be using off-site. And so how it's planned out is that they're supposed to come to our office, sign out the laptop, go do their home visits or their outreach or meet with a veteran off-site, come back, turn in the data, input, and then leave the laptops at our office. So we still have all of that to work out. Our office, we don't have the space where we're at right now.
Well, hopefully, again, there's talk about some school closures. So hopefully, I mean, there's talk about that, okay? I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens, right? I mean, we definitely need to utilize spaces that will incur some.
Hopefully, Senator
some
Barnett
closure.
can consider us with one of those buildings.
But yeah, actually, we've got. I think there's a DOE oversight. So we're just hearing about that. We don't know again which ones and whether that's going to come to fruition or not. Let me ask you about the cemetery grants, the 8.2 million. Mr. Augustine, you said that grant will be available October of this year, right?
That's what I'm being told by
Okay.
the director of the National Cemetery.
Okay. Now, you also said that the cemetery has a life of about 4 years left, basically.
4 years,
4
that's
years.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
When did that clock start ticking? When did that 4-year clock start ticking?
September 2023.
2023. So we're about 3 years right now then into.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
So when we get that, the 8.2 million, you said there's a hill that you need to move. Well, I
Yes.
mean, and then even before you do that, you have to go through a procurement to be able
Yes,
to, yeah.
yes. So if I may explain the challenging process of this 8.2 grant is you have to go step by step. So you have to wait until the National Cemetery Administration gives you the thumbs up to move, and then a National Environmental Protection has, inspection has to take place, right, for environment. Once that's done, we provide that information to National, then they tell us, take the next step. At no time, if we do decide to jump the gun and do it on our own, with our own funding, we will not be reimbursed. So we definitely have to wait until they give us the thumbs up to move forward. So every step of the way, sir, if you don't mind, we have to provide them information, give us the go on the next step.
Yeah.
So
And
it's that intricate.
And the reason why I'm asking, because the clock's ticking, we're down, it's not 4 years anymore, it's about 3 years.
Yes.
At this point. So that being said, then, so that process goes, the step-by-step process, how long would that process take? And in the meantime, the clock is ticking on, of course, the running out of room at the cemetery currently. So when do you see this process, the step-by-step process, to be fulfilled? And
As soon as they give us a thumbs up to move forward, I will predict that within 2 years or probably less, that as they section in phases, as one area gets built, we're able to utilize it and start burying. But I will venture to say that under 3 years, we'll be able to finish this construction. Now, mind you, that I do remind them the challenges that we do have in comparison to stateside. We're competing with the military buildup. We have very limited resources compared to stateside. So they're aware of that. The thing I want to share with you all is they have an obligation to make sure they don't fail us.
Okay. So we're still in that 3-year timeline. We can still get that done with the step-by-step process and the clock ticking.
Yes.
A year that had ticked away already, pretty
Yes.
much? Okay.
Yeah.
And likewise, earlier you said that the first commission meeting, the Veterans Commission meeting, will be on the 26th of this month?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the convention, you said, will happen around June?
Around June, that's if they're able to procure the venue.
Okay, and that's June this year?
June of this year, that's correct.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Senator Duane, before I go to Senator San Augustine, did you have an up?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I have another question, couple questions I totally forgot earlier. Ma'am, Ms. Eubanks or Director, sir, there was a fire in the 1970s in the Veterans, I think the main headquarters of the Veterans Benefits Administration. Has that affected getting documents for Vietnam veterans? Is anybody familiar with that? Is it difficult to get like a DD-214 for Vietnam veterans?
Well, if we have it at our office, with the 28,000 files, then definitely we can provide that to the VA. But I think you're talking about the National Archives, not the VA, where there was a fire.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's where they hold all of the records. And yes, there was a fire that happened in the 80s. Was it the?
I think in the 70s, like right
70s,
after
80s?
right after the Vietnam War. But has that caused any delay in getting files for our Vietnam veterans?
Not in any of the cases that I've been handling since I've been working at the office. As a matter of fact, when I do sit with veterans, whenever there is a claim that is going to be filed, the VA actually has an obligation to go and request for federal records. So they request the service records and personnel records from the National Archives, and that gets housed into VBMS. And when I'm sitting with the veteran, I actually go over all of that with them. The unfortunate thing is that we're just the state office, right? We're the affiliates of the federal side, right? We're recognized by the federal, but we don't have the ability anymore to extract anything from that system, right? Because it is the property of the VA. So the veteran would have to do a FOIA if they wanted to go and get and obtain copies of those records.
And that may cause a delay in their compensation claim.
No, the FOIA, no, that has nothing to do with the claim. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's just for the veteran to go and get whatever records is already in existence in the VBMS.
Have you ever had a veteran that may have difficulty getting a DD-214? A Vietnam veteran?
No.
No, okay.
Not in my time there, no.
All right, thank you. And one more question, sir. How many 100% veterans, are you aware of that here on Guam? The number of 100%? Only because I think it's probably a huge number, and I think they contribute a lot to our economy, and I think it should be, our services that we render as a local government should sort of be commensurate almost to the kind of money that they bring into our economy. So that's something to definitely look at. So if you can maybe gather that information for the next time we discuss the budget or something, maybe we should tie something into the amount of economic benefit that our service members who have gotten benefits from the VBA and how we can better serve them, you know, with that kind of numbers. Thank you. That's all I have to. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator San Augustine, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Speaker. You mentioned we have 24,000 veterans registered, correct?
24,000 in our active files.
Okay, when you say active file, you're referring to the DD-214 count, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I think that
of veteran files that we have in our office.
I believe that whenever you're responding to any of my colleagues when they say how many people, based on the 8,000, 5,000, you need to always refer to DD-214 as the count. Now the question would be then, is anybody else communicating with the VA to say that, hey, we got 24,000 veterans on Guam? They don't all need to ask for benefits. You don't ask for medical assistance, right? But we got 24,000. And that's the message that Veterans Affairs needs to understand. We have 24,000. If they all came in and started knocking saying, hey, I want to see a doctor. If that ever jumped to 24,000, what's the wise next excuse? To deny us to having our own board here and having our own true hospital here. Okay? And that's, I believe, is the message that your office needs to do, Director San Augustine, because if you're going to compete with all the messages from Congress, from Delegate Moylan, yeah, 5,000, ooh, por favor, you got a DD-214, Jim. Have you seen the doctor yet? No? Okay, you're registered as one of the veterans on Guam. You should be included. Every veteran needs to be included. If you got a DD-214, you're a veteran. Getting the benefits or not is another thing. The next question I have is, you asked for 2.9 last year, you got 1.2 because that was what you guys asked for, correct? What are you asking for this coming year, 2025?
1.2, Senator.
No, I mean the increase.
Well, that was the instruction by my budget analyst.
Understood.
But I'm going to submit to the body and to, as I said, with Vice Speaker and to Speaker, and to your office as well.
Make sure I get it first because I'm the one who's going to be looking at it on the budget, and then I'll
Yes,
present
sir.
it to my colleagues.
Okay.
Because I need
Yes,
to work
sir.
with you. Remember,
Yes, sir.
I would be meeting with every agency to look over their budget and have an understanding exactly what you need. Because if you're saying, okay, we're going to need 6 more VSRs, 2 more RMOs, we need people for the cemetery, and you mentioned that earlier, where are you going to house them? If you don't have a means to house them, how can you ask for more people? Doesn't make sense. You got to have a plan of exactly all your movement. I know the Mrs. Augustine, director, will come up with a plan so that when we're talking, we know where we're going. Because I know the colleagues here are not going to go against the veterans. I mean, I think every bill that was presented to this body, when it deals with veterans, have been 100% supported. So my concern is to make sure that when you present anything you want to present, when it deals in money, be complete, fun. And you know, when they were asking question earlier about salaries, it's always inclusive of benefits. I was trying to do the numbers. I was first writing 400,000, then if you add that, what's the total amount in this current budget of 1.2 that's dealing in personnel? That includes benefits? What is the number, 1.2? How good are you? 1.2 total, that covers all your vehicles, your gas, what?
It's only for salaries, fringe benefits, utilities.
1.2 covers all that, then how do you guys cut the grass? I mean, I'm trying to understand, how do you stretch your 1.2?
So with on the cemetery side,
Okay.
we have the reimbursements of our veterans who have passed and they're reimbursed. And so the expenses come out from that.
The veterans
The
reimbursement,
NAF, the non-appropriated funds account.
break it down, Pam, so the colleagues will understand, because 1.2, what did it equate to then? The 1.2 actually became what,
So for the
1.5,
operations,
1.7?
the operations itself is 1.2, and that covers our salaries, fringe benefits, and utilities.
Okay.
For both Aston and for the cemetery.
Okay,
Anytime operations is conducted down at the cemetery, the director has the discretion of the non-appropriate funds account, which is an account that we have under our office, that any of our veterans who have passed away, we turn in their information to the big VA, they reimburse us back for that veteran.
and how much did you get reimbursed then in 2023? I'm not gonna ask for this year because we're not done yet, so how much did you get reimbursed?
I'll get you that number.
Ay, por favor.
Yes, I will get you that number.
And the reason why I'm asking these kind of questions, we're dealing in numbers. Okay, because the veterans that are here are gonna be asking, how do they have the ability to spend? Okay? Because when you're asking for 2.9, then my next question would be, 2.9 was 2023, right? Or 2024? Okay. And what has been reimbursed to your office so far this year? In the past, how much has been reimbursed? ¿Cuánto
Yes, Senator, I'll get you that number.
Ay, por favor.
I'll get you that number. I'm the only one that is the guardian
I
of
know.
those information, so I'll provide you that number.
I would just highly recommend in future oversights, bring your whole packet. Be ready, because when you have somebody, there's quite a few of my colleagues here will ask you in detail. And you know, when you mentioned you needed computers, it was all over the newspaper, and I'm not gonna bash Senator Barnett on DOE, but they got $20-some million worth of computers. You should be able to get something from them, because it's not going to the children of Guam. If it's not gonna go to the kids, then it needs to go to the offices that need them. And in the issue of space, make sure in your budget you identify, because my understanding is that there's not enough space at the veterans, I know that. And if I'm correct, I think you guys are moving to Esther, no? Is that gonna be able to house everybody? If you were to get your full budget that you're hoping to get 30 total folks, it would be able to accommodate that? Are you paying rent there?
My understanding is not.
Okay. Come up with an estimate of what it could cost if you had to pay rent, just in case they move you. Because they seem to be moving people around a lot.
Well, we're gonna-
some
we're
of the
gonna-
folks that are there are public health people. They're moving to the castle up in Manila, and they're going to be paying rent. So I'm just curious. If tomorrow they say, Mr. Snoxy, you need to move your folks somewhere, and call because you're going to come to us and say, we need money for rent. No, we're not going to give you money for rent because you never planned it.
Right.
So I just want to make sure you're planning. In the event you needed it, you got it. Okay? Conventions now to June, possibly June 2024. How does it look?
Well, let me do this. I think it's looking good. But let me do this since we're on the roll and it still has to do with veterans. On June 12th of this year and every year, it's recognized National Women Veterans Month. I do intend to have some type of activity for that particular event as well. And we're looking at probably when I get back from my travel that I meet up with the committee to discuss what do they want to do. I will say this, since we're rolling, that it's been never that we recognize and appreciate our women veterans here in Guam. I might be mistaken. But since that there's a National Women Veteran Recognition Month, which is June, Recognition Day, which is June 12th, I want to do something within that month for the women veterans. We know, many of you veterans know, that many of our women veterans served as much as we did, if not more. Many of them has climbed the ranks. Many of them became pilots. Many of them became exceptional leaders, retired, came back home, and are all contributing to the community. In saying that, and I must apologize that this is probably out of the context, I am asking each and every 15 senators to amend the veteran license plate bill or introduce a new bill to have a women veterans license plate for our women veterans that serve.
I would highly recommend Director Snogson that you know how that works, because when I first got elected, I worked with you for the license plate for all the veterans, when we identified the different awards. I know you got a good ASO over there that can help you draft the bill and present it to any one of us, and then we'll support you on that one. That's the easy one. That's a very easy one. Yes, sir.
Senator San Agustin, I have those numbers for you.
Outstanding. That's what I thought you'd
The
get.
total reimbursements for the year 2023 was $230,238.
Oh.
For 2024 to present, it's $21,639.
Okay. Good numbers. 200. You got 200,000 for 23. I just only ask that make sure when you put your budget together, make sure it identifies all the different possibilities. And I think on the question that we're identifying the 100%, I think Bill Condiff probably might have that answer of how many people are 100% on Guam. Could they've been contributing? Yes, do you have that answer?
So we can definitely make that request again to the Department of Veterans Affairs. They have provided us for fiscal year 2021. So since then, I'm sure the number has risen. But the number of veterans that are 100% or individually unemployable back then was 678. So that was as of fiscal year 2021.
Wow, 678, 100%.
100% or individually unemployable.
Yeah, Senator Sniggers showed me, that basically contributed $2.7 million to the economy. It's a lot of money. And that's why we need to make sure we stay focused on finding a way to help the veterans. But what I'm very curious about is as you're trying to work close to the federal, is there any way where you and the federal can be housed in the same compound somehow? No, you can't be? Why?
The state office is different from the federal side of the house.
I know that. You know, there's Guam and then there's U.S. government, but I'm just saying, same compound.
We
and in other
actually-
words, next door that says, hey, you need to go next door because they got it. I mean, why we all have to drive around the whole
So the
island's not that
previous
big.
director we have made contact with the Hawaii office, and that is not possible.
Hawaii doesn't want to hook up with us, right? That's what you're saying.
So, you know,
Okay.
as we all know, right, the fight for the veterans have always been to separate us from Hawaii, and that's our constant fight right now, is for Guam to be independent from Hawaii, you know. So that is a continuous battle
Hawaii
for us.
cannot afford to lose Guam's count.
Exactly.
Let's make sure we don't,
Right.
it's not said any other way. Hawaii cannot lose our count. When they lose our count, their numbers go down. What they're entitled to goes down also. And that's why I'm only insisting that it needs to be communicated with the VA office that 24,000 is what we got on Guam. And maybe you need to communicate with whoever issues out those DD-214 to make sure that they inform the VA that there is 24,000, not 8,000. 8,000 being served, but there are 24,000. There's probably a lot more than 24. I mean, I'm almost sure there's more than 24. But if we follow the DD-214, I remember Director Snoxine, 8 years ago, you and I sat down, we were trying to figure out something. You got the building in Asan. What's going to happen to the building in Asan now? It's going to be vacated?
Well, that building belongs to Gura, so we're just being housed there.
Have you ever thought of asking Gura to build a building for you guys? They build for everybody else.
There has been some talk.
Put in an application every year is in April. It's due. It goes to their headquarters and they'll determine. Correct? CBDG. Apply. You might get lucky and they may just build one building just for the Veterans Affairs. And then if it's a federal grant and they grant it, it shouldn't be that hard to convince the federal entity that's on Guam to say, hey, we got space for you next door. And it's not like we want you next door, but the veterans need your help if you're next door. Okay? Please, por favor, apply funds. It doesn't hurt. Thank you, Madam Vice Speaker. I think that's it for now.
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. Senator Chris Barnett, thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Madam
next.
Chair. Good morning to the panel, and of course, I'd like to thank all the veterans for their service and their attendance at the hearing this morning. I'd like to thank you also, Director San Agustin, for clarification on the grant, which I had questioned when we were in session and committee of the whole. And I think part of the confusion is that the administration sends out these press releases, right? So relative to this $8.2 million grant, and I know I showed you this before, this press release was sent out a couple weeks before the election, in an election year. And this press release basically says that the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration announces plan to expand and improve the Guam Veterans Cemetery with a federal grant of $8.2 million awarded by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. So I'm very grateful that you clarified for the record, and I think that, you know, we get a little bit ahead of ourselves. And I know I spoke with you after the State of the Island address, and you had shared with me that you don't play the politics. And I think that's what's causing a lot of the issues that we see here is it's the politics. It's the politics of announcing that we're doing these great things for the veterans. A couple years later, thought that, you know, announcing that we're training up these veterans, these people to assist the veterans with the registration with this great grant, and then come to find out it was never completed. And so when we put out these press releases where we're trumpeting our accomplishments, when it falls flat on its face, I think we have an obligation to inform the veterans. And I talk to a lot of veterans, and that's the frustration that I hear from them, is there's not a lot of communication with the veteran community. And I could feel their tension in the room. And I know you had said that the veterans here have an agenda. And I just be careful, because it really seems to me like the agenda, unfortunately, is coming from Adaloop, you know, and announcing this is the year of the veteran. It's very disheartening and frustrating, and honestly, I'm a little embarrassed as a member of this government with the way the veterans feel they've been treated. And I would just say, you know, at the beginning of you guys' testimony, even some of the testimony submitted here, there seems to be a lot of finger pointing at the legislature. But if you are scared to tell the governor, lieutenant governor, exactly what you need to deliver the services to the veterans when they formulate your budget, then we're going to approve what we get down here. And so what I see this morning now is the governor, lieutenant governor submitted the status quo budget, and we're now hearing from you outside of that process that you need to hire, I'm not sure if it's 30 or 42 employees. Frankly, I lost track, but that's something that you need to do with the administration before that budget proposal gets down here to the legislature. And so I think you are obligated to serve the veterans in that way. I think you need to cut through the politics, and if you need to hire 30 people or whatever, you need ARP funds to do it, then that conversation has to be had at the administration level. Of course, we're going to do whatever we can to support you when we get that document down here, but I just don't know how fair it is when I read testimony saying that the legislature needs to support the VA with more funds in the budget so that they gave raises to the employees so they could hire people. And I think that if Adaloop doesn't understand the needs of your department, then that really falls on your inability to communicate those needs to the governor, lieutenant governor. So I really want to hear from the veterans, and that's all I have now. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Taidigui, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for your service. And you said it very nice, Ms. Eubanks. You know, the meaning behind it, as you get older, you understand the importance. My father was a vet, Air Force. My brother-in-law, my children's father, all vets. And I thank you so much for your service, every single one of you. It's unfortunate that we have to come here during this time when it's close to an election and put the veterans in front of us. We should have been doing this a long time ago, and we should be doing it almost every month to address the issues. Director San Augustine, I'm sorry, you have inherited the sins of the past. You're doing your best. I've had no issues. When I call you, you answer right away to answer my questions when constituents call me. But you are obligated, and you need to service your veterans, not the administration, the veterans. I introduced legislation which didn't get any support, especially from Adelup or those who are supporting Adelup, to make sure that the money stays in the veterans. I introduced legislation to make sure money does not be pulled away out of the reserves. Mr. Meno, how much reserves have been taken, how much money has been taken away from your allotment and placed in reserves right now?
Senator, because I don't have access to our accounts, I cannot provide you that information at this time.
Okay, let me know.
Yes.
How much money have you received from ARP funding to date? Do you know how much money have you received from ARP funding to date? Besides the 50,000 that all of a sudden she came up with, you know, at the bewitching hour for the conference.
I would, let me consult with my budget
These
analyst.
numbers, my friends, these numbers should come to you very easy. You should know these numbers, okay? Next time you come in front of us, especially your budget, to have all these answered questions, you know, the ones that we've asked, all those ones that you didn't bring today, please. I'm going to make this short. So I've got a whole lot more to say, but I want to hear what you got to say. The last thing I do want to ask is, why, Ms. Eubanks, do you not assist veterans when they have medical issues? I'm finding out these veterans have to wait for the medication through the mail, that they can't even get it here on Guam through the mail. And everybody knows what's happening with Amazon. You know, they're months late with deliveries. And then why is it that when a veteran needs specialized care that they can't get on Guam, that most of them are denied from going off island? I would think that the veterans are there, you know, the Veterans Office is there to help veterans. So why don't you help them with the medical side of them? At least guide them in the right direction, at least be there. Because I know, I've been sick. I've been diagnosed with cancer. I know what it takes to try and fight the fight for medical care. So you really need that help from the veterans are seeking that office to help them through that, whether it is just to hold their hand or guide them. So can you tell me why?
Well, we certainly do advocate for them on every aspect. We advocate for them.
Even medical?
Even for medical, but we can only do what we can, which is the Veteran Benefit Administration side. So the scope of our work is to assist veterans in the preparation, the presentation, and the prosecution of their VA benefit claims, which is on the Veteran Benefit Administration side. So we're not a clinic, and we don't provide like any health-related services to veterans other than to advocate for them. So if they needed us to fill out the application for health benefits, we'll do that. But they would have to submit that to the CBOC, or sometimes we would take it upon ourselves to actually go to CBOC and do it for them.
I'd like to see more of that, because more of our veterans, you're going to see a huge amount of those baby boomers becoming of age that need more medical care. We're going to have more seniors in 2034 than we are children coming up. So we're going to need much help when it comes to services for medical. And I want to thank you for a great job you did. That was my uncle, my father's brother, who passed away on Saturday, and you gave a great speech, and thank you for all your help. And especially on the medical, I'm going to push that medical side, you guys. I know that I'd like to recognize Ginger Cruz, who's here, who has a lot of insight when it helps helping veterans, especially when it comes on the medical side. So I hope she can advocate and push for that, and maybe you can get with her and talk with her on that. So thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do have 7 pages of sign-up sheets. There's probably about 50-plus people that are here. I'm going to call you by name and ask you if you want to present. so please just bear with me. I'm going to try and do these. Monty McDowell, I'm going to go ahead and ask the Department of Veterans Affairs just to please remain here in case there are any other questions that may come up, but thank you for your time. Please, we'll give room for those veterans that are here who wish to say something. Mr. Monty McDowell, are you here to make a presentation also? Mr. Joseph Guzman, would you like to present or just here for support? Joseph Guzman. Before I say the next name, I also want to recognize the Congressman Moylan's office who is here. They did present testimony. They do have testimony that has been submitted, but if they wish to read it in, I will allow that. I did ask for Mr. Joseph Guzman. Miss Dolores Healy? She's outside. Would she like to present or just here for support? Mr. Junior Centeno? Junior Centeno? Lydia and Victor Jesus? They just walked out. Arthur Yami? Yami, Arthur. John Gilbert. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Rick Kanata from UMATIC, he was here earlier. Mr. Johnny Villagomez. Mr. Villagomez, would you like to say anything, or you're more than welcome? If you want to share something, you're more than welcome, Mr. Villagomez, to sit up, or just here for support. Please, please. Thank you. Mr. Villagomez stated for the record that after 10 years of trying, he finally received his 100% disability. Si Diyos ang benedisi. Thank you. Mr. Evangelist Babata, please. Thank you. I think this is Amy Jackson, right? Please. You're more than, are you going to present or just support? Okay, no worries. Yes. Policia Shocker? Huh? I'm sorry. Yeah. Henry Menglonia. Stan Cole? May Salas, would you like to present? Is it Ray Salas? Please. I know this. Uncle Bill Condiff? Uncle, okay, thank you. I know Uncle Joe Mofness? Uncle Joe, would you like to present? Okay, just for support. William C. Mesa, Jr. Yeah, he was just right here. Raymond A. Perez. Just want to fill one more. Dave Duenas, he was here earlier. Mr. Vince Borja, get your support, thank you. Bobby, you're here for Congressman Moreland, thank you. Mr. Victor Palomo. John Salazar. Would you like to present? Okay. Mr. Roy Gamboa? And Anthony Tyrone? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tyrone. Is there one more seat there? Is that Alvin Agulu or Alvin Agutu? Agualo? To support? Thank you. Mr. Lloyd Baldwin, would you like to present? Support, thank you. Tom Devlin, would you like? Thank you. Mr. Brian Miranda? Mr. Robert Carroll? Sulinda Adam Fawcett, would you like to present? Please. Sulinda? Okay. I know I called Mr. McDowell for, I will allow him, said he's Sina, and then I'll work it down from Mr. Shringi down to my left. So, Mr. Monti?
Well, thank you. This is testimony for support of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, Hafaday, Speaker Barnes, and members of the Guam Legislature. Good morning, esteemed members of the legislative body. My name is Monty McDowell, a retired Navy officer that served 22 years. I am here to advocate for support, including adequate funding for the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, an office within our local government of Guam. The service and sacrifices made by our veterans are immeasurable, and our support for them should be unwavering. However, the unique geographical and social economic context of Guam presents challenges that necessitates a localized approach to veterans affairs. Unique challenges faced by Guam's veterans. First, the isolation and remote location of Guam pose significant barriers to accessing service typically available to veterans on the mainland. This isolation can lead to delays in care, difficulties in obtaining critical information, and an overall sense of being forgotten by the broader veterans support network. Second, the cultural content of Guam means the veteran services must be culturally sensitive and appropriate. Our veterans are not just American veterans, they are Chamorro, Filipino, and of many other descents. They deserve services and respect and understand their cultural background. Our Veteran Affairs Office addresses these challenges head-on by providing tailored services that recognize the unique needs of our veterans. This office serves as a central hub, acting as a liaison between Guam's veterans and federal VA resources, ensuring that our veterans receive the benefits and support they are entitled to. Provide localized support services, offering counseling, job training, and placement services that are sensitive to the cultural and economic context of Guam. Advocate for Guam veterans, representing the needs and challenges of our veterans in both local and national forums, ensuring that their voices are heard and their services recognized. Economic and social benefits. Investing in our local Veteran Affairs Office is not just the right thing to do, it is a smart investment in our community. Veterans bring a wealth of skills, experience, and leadership to our workforce. By supporting their transition to civilian life, we can unlock their potential, contributing to Guam's economic development and community resilience. In conclusion, our local government of Guam Veteran Affairs Office is crucial in recognizing and supporting our veterans. It is an investment in the very fabric of our community and a declaration that we honor the sacrifices made by our servicemen and women. I urge you to consider the profound impact this office has in support of Guam's veterans. Thank you for the time and attention to this important matter. Jesus Maase.
Thank you very much, Mr. Regdal. Mr. Shringi.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I want to clarify, number one, I'm going to be reading a testimony, or at least part of it, because I think it's a little extensive, but I will be focusing on the that we've been tuning into that are a part of this hearing. This testimony is on behalf of Congressman James Boylan, who had to head back to D.C. Over the weekend. And I also want to go on record by saying our office also does support the efforts of the Guam Veterans Affairs Office. I think they definitely need the support, and our doors are always open to see how we can help them from a federal perspective. Anyways, Hafaday, Vice Speaker Barnes, and Senator Dwayne Nicholas, and members of the 37th Guam Legislature. I'm trying to get used to that. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you some updates that our office has been having with the Department of Veterans Affairs, which should help in the efforts of improving services and opportunities for our veterans community. I want to start with the Veterans Health Administration. I was tuning in when Senator Blas was inquiring into questions on that, so I want to sort of emphasize what really is the highlight conversation that the DVA has been having with our office. The primary concern that we need to bring to the table, which is also something Vice Speaker Muña Barnes is aware of, is the realities of the number of veterans the Veterans Health Administration, VHA, has noted who are currently enrolled on Guam. At the end of fiscal year 2022, the total number of enrollees was reported as 5,728. The model prediction of the Chief Strategy Office of the VHA estimates that by the end of 2030, these numbers will slightly increase to 5,921, a little below 6,000. And these are their statistics based on current enrollment averages, trends, and of course entwined with losses. Since we understand that there is an unofficial count that exceeds this number by 4 or 5 times, I think I heard 20-some thousand earlier, the reality is that when it comes to the VHA, what they look at are the official numbers. And that is what matters in the eyes of the VHA and ultimately the DVA, the official numbers. The level of services which the VHA can provide for Guam veterans directly correlates with the number of enrollees on record. And so in the eyes of the VHA, the current services equate to those current numbers. This includes access to GMH, GRMC, the Naval Hospital. I'll talk about that a little bit more a little later, and both the current CBOC and soon-to-be expanded CBOC. While we can continue to debate that we have more veterans on island, which we absolutely agree that we do, the real question is, how are we going to get more veterans to enroll under the VHA so that we can enhance the services which our veterans deserve? The Department of Veterans Affairs is a very reactive and not a proactive entity. They will provide the necessities which they feel are adequate for the number of enrolled veterans, not registered veterans, enrolled under the VHA veterans. They have indicated that 7 FTEs from their Hawaii office have been placed in Guam to assist with claims. And this can certainly increase, will drastically increase, if our enrollment numbers increase. Our government in general, and this includes the administration, the legislative branch, our office, the various veterans groups, we need to come up with a strategy. We need to figure out what the game plan is and how we're going to get these enrollment numbers up. Because we can't ask for more services unless we can justify that equates. Because once again, they are looking at the VHA enrollment numbers, not the unofficial registered numbers. And this has nothing to do with the VBA numbers, which I'll talk about a little later as well. I want to go into this, skip into this Veterans Medical Center. Recently we had a conversation with the commander of the Guam, of the Naval Hospital Guam, and we brought up the idea of a Veterans Medical Center, which is a very common feature in so many jurisdictions. And this would, of course, provide inpatient and specialty care for veterans. And there was a lot of positive feedback. In fact, they were even talking about possibly using a vacant piece of property adjacent to the Naval Hospital Guam to construct one. But DVA would have to construct one. But DVA will come back and tell you, or VHA rather will come back and tell you, the current numbers equate to the current services. So we can't get these things if we don't increase our VHA numbers, our enrollment numbers. And to kind of backtrack a little. I understand there are a lot of veterans out there who prefer not to enroll under the VHA because of other reasons. Maybe I have private insurance. Maybe I work for the government of Guam. I have better government of Guam health insurance. Because VHA is essentially the insurance aspect. It's not the claim, it's not the benefits, it's the insurance aspect. And for that, they choose not to enroll. But who are they taking it away from? You're taking it away from those very veterans that may need that care. And that is the message that we need to sort of implore. And that is the message that we hope to resonate. So there are opportunities to enhance on that. DOD is, Naval Hospital Guam is actually open to the idea. But in order for DVA to construct it or finance it, they want to say, hey, are we going to invest in something when you only have below 6,000 enrolled veterans and there's already adequate care within the various hospitals? Going back to the Naval Hospital Guam, like I said, we had asked for this, the service. But something else to also ask, to note, and I shared this with Tony and HMI a couple of weeks ago. During our meeting with the Naval Hospital Guam, they did, we basically asked, was there going to be an opportunity for an expansion of care to, well, let me backtrack here a little bit. As I shared with the local vet groups and the DVA brass, the Naval Hospital Guam is providing services to veterans as long as the care is service connected, which is a great start. It's not the ultimate solution. We have asked for an expansion of this care to go beyond ailments, which are service connected, and there seems to be a very positive response on the DVA side. I understand that the discussions of an MOU, and I know Senator Frank Blas had inquired into an MOU, that discussion is actually ongoing. Our office is continuing to monitor this, and as we discussed with DVA, while the understanding is that both that inpatient care is available at GMH and GRMC, the reality is that both hospitals, currently their patient numbers are relatively high on any given day. So additional care is not just a desire, it's a necessity. And so we hope in the coming days and weeks something materializes. Thank you, Senator Blas, for that letter to the DVA. That opened up some eyes. We've been constantly monitoring this thing. There's a lot of interest, and we hope to soon allow veterans to be able to access the Naval Hospital Guam for care other than what is service connected. Timelines for CNP, I'm going to go back to the VBA site now, the Veterans Benefit portion, which I hear that you got yours after 10 years. I do want to say congratulations, but I also want to say that's not right, but congratulations.
Mr. Shringi, can we go ahead and proceed?
Sure. Sorry about that.
Mr. Villagomez, I can give you the opportunity to share some of your thoughts, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the issues that we've been pounding with the DVA is the need to reduce the timelines it takes for a veteran to, 1, secure a CNP exam, 2, have the results analyzed, and 3, provide the veteran with their disability rating. Unfortunately, this process takes a lot of time. What do you call that? Last year, we requested a study through the VBA and learned that the average timeline for a veteran residing in Guam to go from the initial phase of securing an exam to obtaining their ratings was 7 months on the average. That itself is unacceptable, but we're obviously hearing of the nightmares that take place for those who have the appeals process. We have been advised that the VBA is in the process of increasing the provider network in Guam to help reduce the timelines for at least the first phase, which is to secure the exam. Because currently, it takes up to 60 days on the average for a veteran to go and ask for an exam. This is, once again, unacceptable. This needs to be reduced. They're saying with the increased number of providers, this should help with a process. As soon as the details are provided, which we, by the way, have submitted a congressional RFI for, we will be happy to share that information. Currently, a draft legislation is in place with Rep. Mary Patola of Alaska, who is our Democrat co-lead, which would statutorily mandate a reduction in timelines. But as we had shared with our colleague, we would like to first provide the entity, which is the VBA, the opportunity to deliver their commitment. Plus, at this point, our measure is circulating to secure co-sponsors because the timeline issue is not just unique to Guam. It is a national problem. On the average, it takes, last year's statistics showed on the average of 7 months for a for a veteran to go from step 1 to step 10, which is the ratings, nationally it's about 6 months. So there is a collective issue that this needs to be addressed. You know, these are the things right here. I think the rest of this testimony here, Madam Chair, are more related to things that outside the scope, and I guess they're on record. But I do want to close out by saying I am ecstatic that the Veterans Advisory Committee held its first meeting in December, as this is the ideal opportunity for the voices of Guam's veterans to be directly heard within the confines of the DVA brass. My office is happy that both Vice Speaker Muña Barnes and Mr. Vince Borja bring different perspectives of what veterans need to the table. And just as with anything on a federal level, the process does take its time. It took 8 months of knocking on the DVA's door to get this committee started. And I am optimistic that there will be some movement for our veterans from the committee as the year progresses. Further, I want to say to Vice Speaker Muña Barnes, thank you. Thank you for challenging the federal bureaucracy in demanding that their next hearing, the advisory committee hearings, be held here on Guam. When we heard that they were planning a meeting in Hawaii, which does not have a seat on the table, I called their bluff. I am glad that you challenged their words and forced a vote among your committee colleagues. And I am certain that you will get them to support your endeavors to get the next meeting of the advisory committee right here on Guam. The DVA cannot truly understand the circumstances of our veterans until they visit the island, see firsthand, and talk to our veterans on their concerns. In closing, I do want to emphasize that the work for our veterans is never done, and that while we will always face challenges, we must continue to strive as a government to provide them with their needed services, particularly from a medical perspective. As a veteran myself, which both Senator San Nicolas as a veteran himself and Vice Speaker Muña Barnes as a spouse of a late veteran can attest to, there will always be hurdles, but we must step ahead. So I want to thank you for holding this hearing, and I hope another one with progress updates can be held next quarter, because we too want to share any progress. What is important, however, at the end of the day, is that we all need to put on our thinking caps and determine how we will increase Guam's VHA enrollments. This is very important, because the individuals in this room that are sitting behind me, they deserve better care, but it's only going to come with higher enrollments. We can talk about all the needs we want to provide for our veterans, but it means nothing if our current statistics don't allow us to justify the additional support. Thank you very much as always. My doors are always open to discussing this. Respectfully, James Moylan, Member of Congress. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Mr. Schringy. Ma'am, please. Please state your name for the record. Can you make sure the light is on? Yes. Bring the mic closer to you. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to Speaker Terlahi, Vice Speaker Muña Barnes, Senator San Nicolas, and all the senators of the 37th Legislature. My name is Linda Adams Fawcett. I'm not sure if I said that already. I'm a little nervous. I'm here actually on behalf of my father, who is a veteran. I'm also a veteran. I'm a product of the UOG ROTC program, served 14 years. And I left the service in 1998, and not until maybe last month or the month prior did I actually file my claim, because the process is very difficult. My father, who is now 86, he retired in 1986. He's been in Guam for 44 years, he and my mother. He attempted to file in 2017. It came back that he was rated at 0%, and for somebody to serve nearly 30 years in the Air Force near aircraft, I felt that was an injustice. I finally got an opportunity to see why he was denied. He actually filed through the VA office in Assen, and I thank them for what they do, because it's not an easy job, and I pretty much guarantee that many veterans, especially if they're Manamco, find this process so difficult that they just say, forget it. I'm trying to fight on my father's behalf. So even something as simple as tinnitus, which many of us have if we served in the military, he was denied. And in there, when he went for his exam, it said that when the doctor asked him if he had tinnitus, my father said he didn't. But why would he go there if he didn't have it? So it seems like checking that I wonder if the VSOs and the in the ASIN office and the VA office could kind of walk the veteran through. Maybe they don't have time to do it. The other issue with my father was he is from one of those eras where they lost his records. Cannot find them at all. But I'm assured, I've been told, I'm assured that they're there. Well, I filed to have those records sent over a year ago, and I still don't have them. So I'm pretty much assuming that a lot of veterans have this issue. I just wanted to call attention to that, and I thank you all for fighting for us. On a note, this is just my personal note as a woman veteran. I'm first a veteran. I don't need the woman attached to it because, you know, we're all one regardless of what service we served in. And I'm an Army veteran, HUA, and was happy to serve. And I thank you all for the time and the opportunity.
Thank you so very much, sir. You may proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon. Wow. I'll work my way from my left to the right. Senator Canata, Primo, Duenas, Senator Shelton. I don't know if you're my uncle or my primo, your mom. Yeah, in the Ganya site, I'm Pequitu. Senator Therese, I'll never forget you. Prima, Senator, Sir Nicholas, Frank, Senator Chris, Senator. Just to give you a little background on me, I am the grandson of the founder of the Republican Party. I'm not here for partisan. I'm here representing myself as a vet. I got out in 1983. 7 months before I got out, the CO, the captain of the base, sent out the EXO to the Indian Ocean. I was there when they put the Marines ashore. I was there when they bombed the barracks. I lost 5 of my friends in that action. It was never declared a war. It was a police action. I gave 110% of myself to the U.S. Navy. When I got out, I did my time. I had a bitter issue with the U.S. Navy. 3 times recommended for Junior Sailor of the Quarter, never got it. Recommended for Meritorious Advancement for E4, never got it. I've got it on my own. Recommended for Meritorious Advancement for E5, never got it. I got out. I got out with a bitter taste in my mouth. I never put a picture of myself on the wall of my house that I was in the U.S. Navy. Never. 30 years later, I find myself getting sick. And I don't get sick. Most of you know that I retired out of the advanced life support here. I don't get sick. I got sick 6 different times in 1 year. And I don't get sick. When I went for help, they wouldn't even acknowledge me as a veteran. Shame on them. I went to ASEN, I went to Tizen, and I went to CBOP. Twice to CBOP, twice to ASEN, and 1 to Tizen. I'm here to testify on how hard it was for me to get acknowledged, just the little veteran's card. That yes, you did serve in the United States Navy. Ikinadu akasyo niyaw, Fernand, you served in the Russian Navy. 4 letters of denial, 14 years of being denied. My son-in-law, common-law, son-in-law, told me, Buster, Dad, we'll do this online. He was with me at Asan the second time I went there. We made an appointment. I needed my DD-214. I needed my passport, my driver's license. Therefore, anyways, we spoke on the phone. The first thing they asked me for was to take a picture of me. Then they asked me for my DD-214. I gave it to them. Then they asked me for my passport. I gave them that. Then when it came to my driver's license, the guy in the other end, in the mainland, said, oh, I didn't know that you guys got a true ID on Guam. I lost it. I gave it to him for free. F you. I've been out of this man's Navy for 30 plus years. And you're still F with me in my own bedroom. Did you know that man was so professional that he mailed me my ID? How many people are like me? In '83, I was supposed to be taken out of the carrier, the Carl Vincent, and sent to San Francisco, where every Marine and every sailor get processed out. That didn't happen. 5 days left. They shot me off the carrier to send me to Diego Garcia, send me to Guam. To be told that I was put on legal hold pending my medical records. My hat is off, and I don't like wearing hats. I even get scolded when I was in GFD. I had to wear it during the training part, but not into somebody's house, not into the car. I get reprimanded left and right. I just don't like wearing hats. But my hat is off to those that help the veterans like me. I am currently at 10%. You ask how many people got 100%? How many people from Guam flew to the PI just to get their 100%? Why is it that it is faster for other people, or our people, my family, to get handouts? I don't qualify for food stamp or housing or anything like that, but the local, to get handouts, than it is for the veterans of Guam. Veteran, period, to get what they deserve. It was my neighbor that guided me to HMI. And I'm still in the process. Imagine, 2004, this is what I got in response. Why did you wait 30 years to come and apply? Because I got sick. The other area, you make too much. Retired. Who exposed me to asbestos exposure? There's only two places that address that in our nation. Texas called me. There's only Texas and Virginia that addresses that. I'm sorry to steal the thunder from you guys. But look, please, Baba Matan, Mizu, Donatan, Haji Masaselect. Forget the administration. Haji Masaselect. People like me. You're supposed to be part of the solution. Thank you. And I apologize. Yes, I do have PTSD. Yes, my wife, my darling, I did take my happy pills. Thank you.
Can you just note your name for the record so that we can record
My
it?
name is Raymond A. Paris.
Thank you, Mr. Paris. And I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you the same complication that my husband had to endure. And I was sharing with the speaker just now that my husband was denied not once, but twice, but 3 times. And he gave up. Didn't want it to do anything more with the veterans here on Guam. It was his brother, John Roy Cruz, who convinced him in Arizona when he had the medical condition to apply through the DAV there. And I know that nonprofit organizations are here to try and help out. And it is because of that, him reapplying, that he didn't just get 100%, 2 100%, but 3 100%, and only 1 of them could be accepted. But every condition that he was denied here on Guam was approved back in Arizona through the Veterans Office there. So we cannot give up, Mr. Paris, and thank you for at least believing in the nonprofit organization, HMI, to help out and
You got to remember that my blood flows.
That's right.
My mother's from Magat.
Thank you, Sidzu Smasi. And I just want you to thank you for sharing that story. And I am going to go to...
Yes, I am Felix Backy's son.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
Sorry, I only speak English and sailor, so... and I'm really nervous. Amy Jackson, I'm a Navy veteran as well, and a member of Got Your 671. Can I just say first, because it was the last thing that was said, is I don't work for the VA, but the VA doesn't have their own rating system. So if there was a rating that you didn't receive, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. That's not just because you're from Guam or filed in Arizona. It's about your documents that you supported or stuff that you had. So I could file in Timbuktu from my computer, and if I get a good rater or someone that's sympathetic to my claim, then it's going to be in my favor. It doesn't matter if you filed from Guam or Arizona or Jamaica. It doesn't matter. It matters about what's your supporting document and how you write your claim. I just wanted to say that. You know, I'm glad that your husband was able to get his 300%, and you know, hopefully you get more percent if you know that's in your favor. But you know, moving on. I was one of the 10 VSOs that took the class, and with no fault of the VA, because I was in contact with GOVA, let me clarify, GOVA. I was in contact with them every month because I needed my certification because I filed GovGuam leave. It's not their fault that we weren't certified. I did all my courses, I did all my advanced courses, I got the certification from the things online. I would call the state clearinghouse or whatever it's called, and we were waiting for a ceremony so that they could give us our certificates ceremoniously. So I think it was more of a production than a service, because just give me my certificate so I could do my training and move forward. That's all I wanted. And I know that we have a chat group, and every month we would just try to get an update, and they spent all this money to fly the lady out and train us. And like you said, it was a waste of money, but it's not all in the hands of the Guam VA office, because hands were just as tied as those who took the course. it's more of a above there, I believe, but, you know, I don't work there. And I just want to say that I think GOVA is doing a great job with the resource that they have, and that their downfalls is just more of an example of their shortfalls, their financial, you know, if they had more finances, then they could have more staffing to provide whatever. And maybe if they had a better advisory with doing their budget, and I don't know if that falls on them or with the guidance of you guys. I don't understand why I don't know if this hearing is because it's Year of the Veteran. Like, what's going to happen next year? Are we just going to be chopped liver till next election again, or what's going to happen? Like, that's how I feel as a veteran. I see all the heads saying no, but I was a veteran last year and the year before that, and none of this seemed to matter. So what's going to happen next year? Are we still going to be important? But instead of trying to discredit them, is it hard to just say, hey, director, you know, I see my office went and took these photos. Did they know you guys were taking photos? Did you walk them around and say, what issues do you have with the cemetery to say where we need improvement? What do you need help with? Like, I don't get why you would just, I feel like you're throwing them under the bus, but, you know. And again, congratulations to the people the individual who just recently got their 100%. Again, it's not anything that Ms. Eubanks can do except for provide them with the evidence and try to word it correctly and do what she can without falsifying documentations and whatever to help you get that rating that you need. But a comment was made about how great the economy is if every veteran was 100%. Not all veterans qualify for 100%. And if someone who pushed papers their entire career and got a paper cut and that's all they have on their file is trying to get 100%, then that's falsifying documents. And no matter how good it is for the economy, you know, not everyone qualifies for that. So just be careful with what you're doing, because it's also a moral thing, right? All veterans are enlisted with honor, well, for any honor, courage, and commitment. I don't know about the other branches, but, you know, that stands with me as a civilian as well.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Gumbo, you done? Yes, thank you.
You're good, Amy.
Mr. Gamboa.
Okay, buenas and hafade. My name is Roy Gamboa. I am the current president of Gotcha 671. We are a nonprofit organization here on Guam that assists veterans. We've been in operation since 2019. Each of your offices will receive a copy of our written testimony on behalf of all of our members. And I'll go ahead and take time to read that. I'll try not to take up more time because we know we have a lot of our fellow veterans here as well. Dear Guam Legislature and public officials, we are writing to express our strong support for the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs and its dedicated staff. GOVA plays a vital role in serving the needs of veteran community on Guam, and we believe it is essential that the office receives the resources and funding it requires to continue this important work. The staff of GOVA work tirelessly to assist veterans with a wide range of services, including accessing benefits, assisting with housing and employment, and providing mental health support. They are deeply committed to supporting those who have served our country and our island, and their efforts make a real difference in the lives of Guam's veterans and their families. However, we are concerned that GOVA does not currently have the adequate resources it needs to effectively carry out its mission. The office is understaffed, and the current wages for GOVA employees are not competitive, making it difficult to attract and retain qualified personnel. Additionally, GOVA's equipment and facilities are aging and in need of updates and repairs. We therefore call on the Guam Legislature and other public officials to take immediate action to address these issues. We urge you to increase funding for GOVA in order to raise staff wages, hire additional personnel, and invest in new equipment and infrastructure. By providing GOVA with the resources it needs, you can ensure that the office is able to continue supporting Guam's veterans community at the highest level. The men and women who have served our country deserve our unwavering support and gratitude. By investing in GOVA, you can demonstrate your commitment to honoring their sacrifice and ensuring that they receive care and assistance they have earned. Thank you for your consideration of this important matter. We look forward to seeing the Guam Legislature and other public officials take swift action to support GOVA and veterans it serves. This is our official letter that we are submitting as written testimony. However, I do want to speak quite candidly to some of the things that were brought up. There was mentioned by some of the senators here that some veteran organizations or nonprofit organizations have had meeting with some of you in your offices. And because it's already been named, I will go ahead and address it here. And I'll just make the statement real quick. One of the concerns is individuals or organizations that clearly violate the Federal Code of Regulations, wherein it states, anyone who prepares benefits claims without proper authorization to do so is breaking the law. VA accredits representatives of veteran service organizations, attorneys, and claims agents to help VA claimants pursue their benefits claims before the VA. I will not argue that it is a great service to receive your 100%, your 10%, or any increase whatsoever. The disagreement that I have, and in testimony that I have here from numerous veterans, is being asked to make a donation for a service that is provided free by the state. And only because it's become personal, where close family members of mine have been called, emailed, texted, and bothered to continuously make a donation because we helped you get your disability rating, is just disgusting in my opinion. And I don't argue the fact that Guam needs help with, our veterans need help. We know a lot of our elderly veterans are computer literate, to say the least, and they need the help to guide their way through the VA system. When I had to file my paperwork, and yes, it took me 9, almost 10 years to get my rating. When I had to do the paperwork, everything was handwritten. So imagine now, right now, it's a lot easier because it's the click of a button. Our organization is represented and authorized to do so in the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to conduct research, survey, and so on and so forth. So by all means, if an organization is going to assist veterans with filing their claims, openly breaking the law, that's perfectly fine. I'll gladly look the other way. But don't call my family members asking to make a donation because we assisted you in filing your claim. It's just disheartening to hear that these actions take place. Receiving your 100% was all yours. Receiving 10% is all yours. So veteran, from here on out, and the reason why I'm holding this folder in front of me is because while there are celebrations on the other side that says, I got my 100% because I did it this way. Guys, 9 years it took me, even as a combat veteran with wounds and injuries, it took 9 years. My counterparts in the States, yes, it's unfair. Some of these got theirs within a year or two. Completely understandable. My records, easily accessible, easily turned in, and yet it's still, I was not recognized as having my injuries linked to my combat service. It took comparing notes with other individuals here on the island of Guam. So, because that can of worms has already been opened, yes, the documents here will be moved forward to the Office of Inspector General. It will be presented to the Attorney General's office, and your office will be provided a copy as well from the testimony of other veterans that have sought our help with their mental health status. They're stating their status because they just don't feel that it is right to go down that road, seek service, offered services, and then being bugged after the fact saying, it costs this much to do a review of a letter that costs nothing at ASSA. It costs this much for a Nexus letter from a doctor who is not a psychologist or a psychiatrist writing a Nexus letter that says this individual has PTSD. Completely understand that only psychologists, psychiatrists can write that type. But what is driven is the desire for money. And it hurts and it breaks my heart that our veterans are being abused in this way. I've said my piece. I appreciate it. I apologize. This is very meaningful to me because it bugs me to know that veterans are being asked to separate with their hard-earned money for something that is done for free by the state. My name is Roy Gamboa. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gamboa. Sir, you are next. Him in the blue.
Am I okay?
Yes, sir, you are.
Thank
You
you
may
so much.
proceed.
Thank you. I think it's time for my B12 and B6 to begin. My name is Ray Salas. I'm from Jigo, and I want to thank the speaker, the vice speaker, the chairman, and all the honorable senators for being here today. We've gone through a lot of information, and I appreciate what Mr. Joe San Agustin is doing for the VA, but I believe is increasing his staff is the answer. I think they really need to revisit what the priority is for veterans on Guam. One of the things I believe is the upkeep of the Veteran Cemetery. Now, $965 million was given to the Veterans Administration, and it started with $11 million for the state office, I guess, the Guam office where Joe San Agustin is at. Now I hear it's $8 million. That's great. But what I've heard today is that there's a delay, I guess, of that $8 million that was given to them to move forward for the upgrade of the cemetery. Now, mind you, that $965 million is for the upkeep and upgrade and whatever you have to do for the Veteran Cemetery. So that's I don't think $8 million is enough to upgrade our cemetery if what they're doing is just to expand and because, you know, as an environment, the environment impact that was, I don't know where they're going to build the rest of the tombs that are going to be erected down there, but that's going to be a lot of cost. That was one of my major concerns with the Veteran Cemetery. And I brought that up because of that finding of that $11 million that they were awarded. And now I hear they're still holding whether or not they're awarded or not. It's, you know, they have to, you know, if they have moved forward, they have to ask questions why there was a delay. Now, you know, when you submit a grant, there's certain criteria that maybe they missed that criteria. Maybe they can't maybe they didn't justify the need for the $14 million to upgrade and maintain the cemetery. So they need to revisit that application, because, you know, when you want to do something and you're trying to justify to the federal government, you know, how much it's going to cost to upgrade something, you know, you have to break it down. You have to follow criteria. You know what the grant is all about, and what your intentions are. You know, $1 million to paint the tombs or whatever need to be upgraded, you still need to justify those. So that was one of my basic, actually, that I always wanted to follow up, even during the first Congressman Moylan's town meeting, was the Veteran Cemetery. As far as the staff, I hear they're trying to increase it to 30, and when you have a staff, when you come in and you ask for 1.2 million, and you're at a status quo at 1.2 million, and you're doing your job, you know, your staff are doing their role at 1.2 million, and you're going to try to increase it to an additional 20 more bodies. Number one, my question is, as far as the VSOs here in Guam, I really don't know what their role is. Are they just, you know, collecting paperwork, making sure that the information on the forms are filled in correctly, and it goes to an adjudication that's not even here on Guam. You know, those applications are being adjudicated somewhere else, perhaps Hawaii, maybe as far as California, I don't know. But even that timeline there, it takes a long time. You don't have adjudicators here. Why are you asking for VSOs? You don't need more VSOs. You need somebody that can track the application and make sure that they're filled in correctly, and you know that they understand that if it's service connected, whatever it is, whatever illness you have, that when you're in the service, then so be it. But I don't think we need more VSOs to review those forms. I think we've got enough VSOs. As a matter of fact, I agree that maybe perhaps our Guam office needs to be married in with the Pt.1 office. It's a Veterans Administration operation after all. And I understand between the local government and the federal government, we still need to talk the same song. I mean, we're filling in the same forms. There's nothing wrong with a VSO that's down at Assen to review the same forms as the person up at Assen. I mean, a person up at Pt.1. They're the same forms. And if it's submitted, completed correctly, then there shouldn't be any problem. It was 1992, and I think the speaker brought up about the registry. It is very important to have a registry. Now, it was 1992 that I believe that began the registry for Guam. That was 1992. Now, I retired about 33 years now from active duty. And so I don't know what happened to that registry. We're talking 24,000 now. I don't know back then how much they collected as far as who made it to the meeting, who signed up for that registry. But that registry is key. I mean, if you're going into a population-based, to have a region office out here, then you need to have a solid registry. Where the congressman's office coming out with 5,000, I really don't know. I mean, you're talking, what, a difference of 18,000? You know, from 5,000 to 24,000? We really don't. I mean, Senator Blas, you have great questions, you know. Tell us so we can really understand, especially this honorable body here, because we won't be coming up with questions as far as, is it really 24,000 or is it 5,000? Do you really need 30 VSO or do you need 5 VSOs? And work with the Pt.1 office. Because the important thing is, if you go in and fill in your form, it's the same form that you're going to fill in. And it's going to the same body. Whoever adjudicates that, maybe Hawaii. And that's the frustration part is, Guam doesn't have adjudication rights, but the Philippines have. You're talking about a U.S. territory. And we can't march forward to justify why we can't adjudicate, you know, along, you know, with Hawaii being adjudicators. There's something wrong in that system. And we have to, if we have to go through House resolutions and, you know, it's too late. You know, with this, it's a total injustice. We're just delaying the process. And there's that process in VA claims, getting doctors here, building our own VA. We don't even have land. We talked about the building next to GRMC. We haven't heard anything about that. It's all talk. And one of the reasons for that, of all talk, is we're not submitting the right, maybe the right numbers that the VA wants to hear. We have people who talk about Guam. They've never been even on Guam. I've been as far away as the Middle East, for crying out loud, during my active duty time. I come back here, I claim I got 30%. And I'm happy I got 30%. I mean, I was fortunate enough to work at the highest body of the armed forces, at the Pentagon. I even worked for the White House, the Organized Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's the highest armed forces as far as echelon. And, I take pride of that. Not many servicemen get to work at the Pentagon, which is the house of the policymakers. And I'm fortunate I'm one of them. And I'm willing to share my stories, what goes on at the Pentagon. They have their own Armed Forces Committee, other than Congress. So we got a lot of great, smart people who are retired. And one of I'm a member of one of those great organizations. I think the Guam Air Force Retiree Veteran Association. We're just a bunch of young folks who try to do some good for our community. If Joe San Agustin needs some volunteers, heck, we volunteered. I think all 6 of us went down to Padre Palomo Veteran Cemetery and spruced that up with no complaint. But other than that, I think it's great that we're having this kind of forum. It's great that we're bringing up a lot of good questions. But we need, I know you great senators need good answers and straight answers. And really, what is the priority? How do we move forward? Anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, and that's one of the reasons why we continue to be here, to hear all the veterans' concerns. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. Babata, I'll acknowledge you at this time. Please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chairwoman. First of all, I'd like to request permission that it's cold in here. Can I keep my hat on? Thank you very much. My name is Evangelist J. Babauta. That's my real name. I was number 5 in my siblings. My mom alphabetized us, and she named me Evangelist, not Edwin or Edward. But anyway, I'm beginning to understand why she did name me that name. Okay, good afternoon, Madam Speaker, honorable senators, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very comfortable to be here today, especially when I have a niece up there, a couple nephews, but one left, and a now that left too. So I'm very comfortable. But most of all, we're all from Guam, right? Viva Guam. Okay. I am a 69-year-old disabled American veteran for over 24 years. I know the system very well. Okay. I have 27 years of military time. I joined the Marine Corps in 1975.
Staff Sergeant in 1980, and was selected for the commissioning program, went to the University of Washington, graduated, and became a second lieutenant in 1982. You know, I'm myself. Some people don't understand me, and that's their problem, not mine, okay? I'm sorry about that. Okay. Military veterans suffer a lot, okay? They suffer a lot that they never experienced before they join the service, okay? And they established the Department of Veteran Affairs to take care of those faithful, dedicated veterans. Sorry, I typed this out, but my printer went down last night, so I'll give you a written copy later on. But you know, I want to focus on problems and solutions, okay? First of all, we have to understand that there's a difference between the veteran office in the federal level and the local level. Okay, there's a difference. And they don't need to work together. They can help each other, but they don't. And you know what bothered me was when they were questioning Mr. Joseph Augustine, my Marine brother, you know, about medical and all that stuff. It cannot get it. It's not this business. I mean, CBOC is federal. Okay, another thing is, you know, they talk about registration and all that stuff, okay? I've been testifying, you know, at the legislature since 2000, after I returned from my medical treatment at the Seattle VA Regional Hospital, because Hawaii VA was very bad for the Guam veterans, even in the 90s, okay? It's very sad. I had to go there. But the main reason why I'm fighting for the veterans right now is I saw the injustice when I was at the Seattle VA, okay? That was 2000, before 911. No offense to the white majority, but all the white veterans there were 100%. My roommate, you know, was 6'8", 300 pounds, and he told me he's a disabled veteran. I said, what for? He was in the Navy, okay, loading bombs on the aircraft, on the airplanes, on the aircraft carrier. And those bombs are killing innocent babies. And she said, he cannot sleep at night. But you know what blew my mind was, this veteran never saw his victims. This was 2000, okay? Well, the veterans on Guam, most especially the Vietnam vets, were the most neglected and ignored veterans. Seriously. Okay? Some of them were wounded and they got 0%. That blew my mind. So I came back fighting. Sorry, I fight a lot because I grew up without a mother since I was 6. And I grew up with my cousins and friends from Agate who were dopers and murderers sometimes, but thanks be to God, God protected me. Never got in trouble by the law. But anyway, you know, plus also I was a prior enlisted Marine. I know how it is to be down at the bottom, okay? They made me a Marine officer, and I took care of my Marines. I fight my superiors, you know, to take care of my Marines when there's injustice. So I'm fighting for justice now. Okay, the first issue was, you know, that I have is veterans, you know, that are not able to apply for benefits or health care. You know, I'm talking, those that are able, you know, it's great. They can go to the veterans office and apply whatever. But my main concern are those that are disabled, those that are bedridden, those that are can't make it there, for some reason. And that's why I recommend that, this outreach program, this effort, should be taken more seriously and, to do it more often, I'm not telling the Veteran Affairs Office how to do their job. But let me tell you, 2000, I was involved with outreach program, as a volunteer. But I remember Chris Regis and Ben Guerrero, okay? And my buddy Joe Leongero from Barragata. They were out there, doing their best every day, every night, okay? I wish they have that same attitude now, And I know they can adjust it because my Marine brother's in charge of the VA now. You should take a look at what Ben Guerrero did, another Marine brother. But that's what I'm saying, they should go out there and just seek those veterans that are not able to come, especially those that are dying, They deserve it, they earned it. Like I said, we suffered the most, after we joined, which we never suffered before we joined. That's why we serve, we deserve. Okay, secondly is, the medical problems that we have here. I'll tell you what, 2000, Naval Hospital was involved. They were helping veterans, medication, everything, because it was required by the National Defense Act, okay? That required the VA to help veterans. That's why I'm asking that, the congressman, should be able to see and fight for that National Defense Act to approve that again, okay? Have Naval Hospital take care of veterans again. Okay. Also for medical issues, I recommend that, the Veterans Affairs Office too, okay, or any entity of GovGuam, the Voc Rehab or whatever, get involved in helping the disabled veterans, especially those that need medical care, to get involved, even as, as an advocate, as an advocate. If they're having problems with CBOC or whatever, hey, I'm a GovGuam official, I'm helping veterans with, please help them, push them, okay? We are the local government, but we are part of the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So we need to tell the federal government what to do. Okay. Another thing is, we all got mayors in the village, right? Let's get them involved again. Let's have this, working relationship, the Veteran Affairs Office with the Mayor's Council, the mayors know their people, okay? They know their people. They know who are disabled, who are the veterans, who are the bedridden, who are dying, okay? Work with them, and have at least monthly, town hall meeting, in the villages. And I recommend that the Veteran Affairs Office keep a log of all the veterans that they help, keep a log and follow up for these veterans. If there's 4 of them and they each help 5 veterans per day, that makes it what? 5 times 4 times 5 days? Wow. That's 20 veterans being helped every week. Imagine that. And keep a look and follow up, I know my brother Joe San Agustin knows desktop procedures and how to keep track of things. He was a master gunny in the Marine Corps, okay? That's the highest enlisted rank in the Marine Corps, besides the sergeant major. But it's tougher to be a master gunny than a sergeant major. You know how I know? Because I was on the E89 promotion board in 1985. headquarters Marine Corps. Okay, that's for medical and everything. What's next? VSOs. Man, sorry, Primo, but we need as many VSOs as possible. The more, the better, okay? And what I recommend is we need to try to get the DAV organization in Guam. You know, I know the VSOs here from the Guam Veterans Office, they said they cannot get into all the records of all that stuff, but if I'm not mistaken, I know the DAV can do more. Because I spoke with a veteran benefits employee at Hawaii, and he said, you know, we are limited. We can help you do this, do that, but we cannot fight for you, okay? But the DAV can fight for you, okay? So I wish, you know, we can form, and all we need to do is have 25 veterans, you know, disabled veterans to form a committee. But we need the help of the congressman office to help us get through the national headquarters of the DAV to form that organization here on Guam, okay?
Uncle Ivan?
Yes?
Dispensa un momento. They need to reset the mic, sir.
Oh, reset?
Okay, yeah, we're going to recess for 2 minutes, and then you can continue. Yeah.
No
okay?
problem.
Thank you all. Thank you. Jesus Masi.